Hi again, everybody. I'm Mike Miles. Welcome once again to Mastodon Spotlight. Well, as I said a moment ago, this is the potpourri edition of the show this week, as we're going to talk a number of different areas, athletic marketing, sports information. We're going to talk to head athletic trainer Dan Fox in a few minutes, but we begin, as always, with our weekly review as to what transpired last week with IPFW athletics. And our first stop is the volleyball court. On Tuesday, October 29th, Coach Kelly Hartley's team traveled to Valparaiso to take on the Crusaders of Valparaiso University, a member of the Mid-Continent Conference. Team didn't start out too well, fell behind, I believe, 11-0 in Game 1, lost Game 1 30-18. They won Game 2 30-28, lost Game 3 30-24, forced a fifth game by winning Game 4 30-22, but dropped the fifth and decisive game 15-10, dropped the team's record to 11-16. Mastodons had 3 players in double figures as far as the attack mode goes. Freshman Fabiana Souza had 21 kills, sophomore Janelle Pollard had 19, and sophomore Mo Meinhardt had 10. Sophomore setter Lindy Bankowski had 56 assists, and junior Sarah Leffers had 29 digs, and junior Krista Solberg also had 22 digs. So tough loss, 5-set loss for the Dons. Then last Saturday, in a match you saw here on Channel 56, the home finale. The team took on Chicago State, also members of the Mid-Con, and came back and played very well. Won 30-21, 30-21, 30-18. They were led. Fabiana Souza had 12 kills. Krista Solberg had 10. Lindy Bankowski, 36 assists. And Amy Grove, senior from Mansfield, Ohio, in her final home match. She's been hit by the injury bug, but she played very well. She had 8 kills and played very, very well in her final appearance here at the Hillgate Sports Center. That was volleyball. Soccer team. Women's soccer team finished their season last week with 3 matches. On the 30th of October, a night match against Ball State. This game ended in a 1-1 draw. Ball State scored early in the first half, controlled the play most of the first half, and then Shasina Hirsey scored a goal in the 60th minute to tie the game at 1. The teams had numerous chances each way. They played 2 10-minute overtime periods. It stayed tied, so it went in the books as a 1-1 draw. Then the team traveled to Conway, South Carolina for 2 final matches. Friday they took on Coastal Carolina, and they played to a 1-1 draw. Trish Presbindowski, I knew I'd screw it up. She scored the goal, only goal for IPFW. Rachel Port played strong in the net. She had 11 saves. And then on Saturday, they had the season finale. They played the College of Charleston. Dropped a 3-1 decision. Charleston scored 2 goals in the second half, 1 in the final moments of the game. The lone scorer for IPFW was Jacqueline Puntillo with an assist from Kristen McDonald, so the season ended for the women's soccer team. And then finally last Sunday, here at the Hillgate Sports Center, the men's basketball team began, as you'll see highlights here. They took on Marian College, an NAIA school, who is known to some people because they're an opponent of the University of St. Francis. And you'll see in the highlights IPFW in the white jerseys, Marian in the gold. IPFW got out to a quick start. They went on a 10-point run to take a 19-8 lead. Never really were tested. Increased their lead to 19 points at the first half, 52-33, and ended up winning the game 86-72. Sophomore Rick Wyan from Franklin Central near Indianapolis had 21 points, including 5 3-pointers. Sophomore Terry Collins from Fort Wayne Snyder chipped in with 16 points, including 4 of 4 from long distance. Senior Brad Knoll had 12 points. They were the Dons in double figures. So it was a good start, 86-72, IPFW over Marian College. That's what happened last week. Time for a break. When we come back, a chat with head athletic trainer Dan Fox. That's when Mastodon Spotlight returns in just a moment.
That's the door to other worlds that my character Tilk and the rest of my team use on Stargate SG-1. It's a door to exploration and exciting adventure. And education can provide you with a similar passageway to a world full of possibilities. So stay in school and graduate.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. As I said earlier in the program, this is a potpourri week. We're going to talk about a lot of different areas. And the first area we're going to discuss has to do with training and trainers. And we're happy to welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight the head athletic trainer here at IPFW, Dan Fox.
Thank you, Mike.
Since we visited last season, a lot of things have happened in terms of athletics and athletic training.
We've been quite busy over the summer months. Usually it's our downtime, but it seemed this year we really picked it up a couple notches with the addition of two new athletic trainers. Rich Riles comes to us from across town in St. Francis. He was over there for 7 years, and it's been a great addition. And Megan Rogge just joined us within the last month from Iowa. And she was down in northern Iowa for a while, and both of them bring in their expertise. So Rich, obviously, if anybody remembers Rich down there, he was from Oregon, and he spent a lot of time out there with the Ducks and did his grad work and stuff. Megan is fairly fresh out of school right now and has been certified and everything, and she's spent this past summer up at the U of M working wrestling. So she's got some good background experience. Though we don't have a wrestling team, still we welcome all their expertise.
You doubled your staff in essence because it's been you and Scott.
Correct.
And I bet if nobody's listening, I could ask you, 4 people still not enough to cover 16 sports, is it?
Not really, not at the D1 level. If you look at most D1 programs, they break down fairly large staff. We're looking at 4 certified athletic trainers, which you have to be at any collegiate or high school level. You can get away with it at the other schools with grad students and student athletic trainers with those programs that are like at IU or Purdue or Vincennes or Ball State. We don't have that luxury here, so we're not looking at another additional 16 students. We're looking at 4 people covering 16 sports. Even some of our other schools here in this area, such as Tri-State, has a few student trainers. Indiana Tech had just brought another one on also. So the field is growing, and the response has been very favorable from everybody. We're better coverage. I believe definitely better patient care because you're able to spend more time working with these athletes. And that makes a big difference.
Talk, if you can, a little bit, Dan, about the unique relationship that a trainer has between a trainer and a medical personnel, the trainer and coaching staff, and the trainer and the student athletes.
If you could picture like a bicycle wheel, and in the bicycle wheel there's hubs. There's a hub, and then there's the spokes going to the outer rim. The outer rim is all your coaches and your doctors and auxiliary people that you deal with. The trainer's obviously the hub. They're directly in the middle of that, and each spoke is a line of communication to whoever it may be, the parent, the athletic director, the coaches, and we hold this all together. Without us, the coaches really can't go to the parent or to the doctor. Everybody has to come to us, and we work with everybody, so our communication has to be very, very good with everybody, and we do a pretty good job with that, with talking with our physicians and our surgeons and our dentists and any other medical care people, as well as these young the athletes, their parents or their guardian, and our coaching staff. As well as our staff has grown, so has all the coaching staffs. And keeping track of everybody and getting them the information so that everybody on one particular team knows what's going on is sometimes difficult, but we do our best. I mean, we sit down and try to talk to them every single day, which has been probably the biggest advantage of adding all this new staff. Is we separated our sports amongst ourselves, and I focus on a certain group, and Scott focuses on a group, and Rich and Megan, and communication just seems to be so much better now. Now they know what's happening on a daily basis. We sit and pick up a phone and hey, so-and-so can't go today, so-and-so, I want them to try to do this. Last year, the years before, we couldn't do that. We just didn't have the time. We were just too inundated with patient care. Now we're spending more time actually treating the patient and make sure everything gets done properly. So.
Well, you were leading up to the next question I was going to ask. With 4 of you on board now, you've got 16 sports. How do you divvy up the sports per trainer?
I'm the head guy, so I take whatever I want. We sit down and we talk about it. Some people have more expertise in certain areas, and we're obviously gonna use that expertise in those areas. We're fortunate enough to have a female with for the first time in 3 years. Does she work with just female sports? No. I worked with the women's soccer team this year. I had a great time with the young ladies. Rich worked with the men. Rich has the women's basketball team. I have the men's basketball team. Scott has both volleyball teams. So, and then Megan also works with cross country, track and field, and softball. So it was just, guys, what do you feel comfortable with? What would you like to work with? And we separated them out that way. Not so much you do this because you're the low person on the totem pole, and I do this because I'm the top guy. It doesn't work that way. We want everybody to feel comfortable, and we want the coaches to feel comfortable with who they have. And I believe we've got a really good situation worked out here. So,
last year when you visited us, last year was what I thought a unique year in a sense. Many injuries. And we talked about men's volleyball team where you had Jeff Patak and Maddie Bachesky both having to have knee surgery, and in fact, Maddie ended up having second surgery after that first match. And as we talked about in last week's show, we had men's volleyball team on. With the different sports, talk about the different types of injuries that are most susceptible. For example, you mentioned track and field and cross country. Having participated in them on the high school level, the first thought that comes to my mind is either shin splints or cramps, pulled muscles.
Right. Every sport is going to have a particular injury or set of situations that need to be dealt with. ACL injury, regardless of what happened on the softball field, soccer field, or basketball court, volleyball court, is still an ACL injury. The luxury that we have now with 4 people is that we're able to focus more on that particular athlete's care and be more functional with them to get them back in a good time frame, strengthening, really concentrating. There's not a set menu that this is how you fix it. He's a volleyball player, he's a basketball player, she's a softball player. We need to, in each one of us, spend that time with those particular athletes, and I believe it's paid off. And we were unfortunate enough to have already one this year, but at this time last year we had already had a few. So we're pretty happy, and everything's going in. We get the regular bumps and bruises, of course, but for the most part, everybody's doing very well, and I believe it's because of the personal contact that we have with our athletes this year. I know that Scott has put a great deal of time in with the men and women's volleyball, watching film, watching how people are landing, how they're jumping, working on mechanical things, spending time stretching with his team, working on strengthening programs with soccer. You know, Rich and I have been kind of looking at that and dealing with some of the other stuff with nutrition and of course the drug testing questions that keep coming up. Hey, can I do this? Can I take this? We've been pretty busy. The education level has definitely jumped up a great deal, and that is part of prevention. Are you doing the right stretches? Are you doing the right lifts? Are you doing the lifts correctly? Talking with the coaches, working side by side with them, and that's been a great pleasure because we never had that opportunity before. So,
how much help or hurt or input do you get from the NCAA? Because it seems like, and then just probably my own biased opinion, they got more rules than Carter's got liver pills, and one never knows whether they're doing the right thing or whether unintentionally they think they're doing the right thing, they're doing the wrong thing. How much contact do you and your staff have with the NCAA?
As far as direct contact, we really have never been approached per se by the NCAA over conditioning and nutrition and things. As we're working on the drug and alcohol policy, I've talked to the NCAA's body, the center who does all the drug testing for all the universities in the country under NCAA guidelines, and have been dealing with them extensively. We do a lot of research on a lot of different things. The National Athletic Trainers Association and the NCAA kind of fall line in line. NCAA takes their recommendations from the AMA, American Medical Association, the NATA, you know, and strength and conditioning people, the NSDA, and everybody together will form those opinions. We go straight to those sources to help us get what we need done. If we're finding out that squatting is not such a good lift anymore to do in the weight room, we bring it to the attention of the coaches. Hey, they're saying that this is bad for backs, or this type of lift is bad. We may want to consider something different. We've got another outreach that we use is Performance One here in Fort Wayne. They've got some strength and conditioning specialists, nutritionists, everybody on staff. I've got a question, or I've got an athlete that's injured, wants to be involved with their weightlifting program. This is their program. Could you tell me what I can change so that they're getting the same benefit that if they were to do the other exercise without putting any stress on a joint or a back? Sure. So we go out and we research as much as we need to get done to take care of the situation. And everybody's on there. If you've been down in our office, we with 4 people, we have a little downtime now, not much, but we're always doing more and more research on something, and that gives us. That's been a luxury because we share that information amongst ourselves and our other colleagues out there. We call other universities. What have you done for this, or what are you doing with this? And but direct contact with the NCAA, probably not, because we want to go to the actual people that come up with the programs and get that information straight from them. But we do follow all guidelines for the NCAA to the best of our ability and just keep going along.
Without trying to get anyone in trouble, without mentioning any names, let's take a hypothetical situation.
Mm-hmm.
Student athlete A is on the athletic field and they get excuse me, they get injured. Could be anything.
Okay.
I use one example. Last Sunday, basketball exhibition game, second half, a player suffered a finger injury of some type.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the first step is you go out, you take care of that person, to find out the nature of the injury. Depending upon the nature of the injury, how much feedback do you get from both the player and the coach? And depending upon the nature of the injury, do you need to talk to a physician in terms of, and how much pressure is there to get that person back on the athletic field?
You've been watching ESPN, haven't you? Because I saw this yesterday. Our coaching staff, we're blessed. Our coaching staff, our athletes come first. Their well-being is #1 concern of all of our coaches. Doesn't matter how minor or how major the situation is or how important that game is on the line. Our coaches understand that player's well-being comes first. They take our recommendations. There used to be a saying, trainer lets them, or will tell them, when they're ready to go back, and the coach will put them in when he's ready to put them in. So they will, if we say, hey, he's out until I say so, he's out until I say so, or one of the staff. But when I let him go, coach should feel absolutely confident that he's not going to further injure this, or he's putting him at risk, because he's taken from my recommendation. If I make a mistake and put him out there too early, it lies on my shoulders. But he's taking my recommendation, or the doctors. And our coaches have never gone outside of our recommendations or the physicians, and that's great. I've dealt with coaches in the past at other places that have done that, and they have put their athletes at risk. They didn't think it was a big deal. Well, if you've watched ESPN recently, it is a big issue,
yeah.
And you need to be very careful with that. You need to be very careful nowadays with what you say. The federal law, it has nothing to do with the state.
That was the last question I was going to talk about, as best we can, is the fact, because you remember I asked you Sunday the nature of the injury, and you said that there is a law out now that precluded you from telling me unless you had specific permission from the individual.
And after that, I wanted to make sure I told you the right thing, so I went and I looked it up. HIP is a guideline, Health Insurance Protection Act. There's a lot more to it, but part of that act is the release of medical information. And technically, you cannot, as a provider, release any information. That's confidential. That's between you and your patient. And that goes with any preliminary findings, any x-rays or testing results, without written consent. And the written consent has to be signed by that patient, has to be signed by that provider, has to state when it can be released and when it stops being released and who it gets released to. And right now, I mean, the kids have a policy in place for specific purposes, and the purposes is for insurance billing and to continue medical care. That's the only time that we release that information. The gray area is in there. Well, what about if somebody sees it? Well, if somebody sees it, I really can't say that you didn't see what you saw. or something happened. A good example last night in a football game. Somebody suffered shoulder injury. One of the quarterbacks came down on their shoulder. The reporters were making speculation of what happened to that athlete, and it already had a diagnosis type of thing done before he was even off the field. That is not right. They don't know what happened. They're taking speculation from somebody that's sitting on the bench or a coach that wasn't there. Really, the person that can say anything is the athlete themselves and the doctors. And the doctors can't release that information, so any information has to come straight from that athlete. Can't come from anybody else. If you want correct information, obviously that comes up with follow-up with your doctors and radiology exams and everything else. And I still have not seen what the actual report was. But they speculated, and that's what puts people in harm's way, especially if they're a young athlete. I worked in professional baseball for 10 years. I worked in professional hockey for a few years. If you speculate and that gets out and that athlete loses a chance of moving on or getting drafted or being traded somewhere because now instead of just being kind of a ding on the shoulder, it's a separation or a dislocation or a fracture. We don't want him now. You may have ruined his career, and legally they can come back and get you, and we don't want that to happen. So better off nothing said at all than to say something. Yeah. And unfortunately, it seems like we're trying to, and I didn't mean to be cold to you the other day, it's just I can't do that. I can't release it even to the coach until that athlete says it's okay. And the stickler is, which I don't understand sometimes, is that our athletes here, most of them are over 18, which means we really can't tell their parents. And that's the law. And there's nothing we can do about it, but I'm sure that if mom and dad came down and wanted to know, I'm not going to keep a secret from them, though it may be illegal, but it's also immoral. It's their child. So,
all in a day's work of an athletic trainer.
Wear a lot of hats.
We're out of time, but thanks a bunch for coming in. I know it was short notice, but I enjoy the information, and you and your staff do a heck of a job. You got a big challenge in front of you, covering 16 sports, but
we're up to it. I think this year we got plenty of people, and we're looking forward to a great year.
Well, thanks again for coming on.
Thank you.
Dan Fox has been our guest, the head athletic trainer here at IPFW. Time for a break. When we come back, we're going to shift gears and we're going to talk athletic marketing with Rick Granger. Our guest from Mastodon Spotlight returns in just a moment.
Today's teenagers, the way people talk, you'd think they can't do anything right. It's just not so. We get to know over 300,000 kids a year, smart kids who know what they want. They believe in themselves, and they believe in America. Some go straight to college. Others choose to learn leadership, discipline, courage, and commitment first with us. Today's military, making a stronger America, one good kid at a time.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. We appreciate Dan Fox spending a few minutes with us, telling us about all the fun that the athletic trainers have. Now we're going to turn our attention to another area altogether, and that is marketing. To run a successful athletic program, you have to bring people in to see the teams play. You got to cover lots of costs in a lot of areas. And I'm happy to have with us now for this segment of the program Rick Granger, who is relatively new to the university. First and foremost, welcome to the show, and
Thanks,
welcome
Mike.
to IPFW.
Thank you very much.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I came to the university in January after spending several years in the Fort Wayne market in television, radio, advertising. So I've been around media in the market for quite a while. I've been around athletics my whole life, played some high school ball, officiated for a number of years, that sort of thing. So this position was just a perfect marriage of two of my loves with marketing and athletics.
Describe marketing of athletics.
Well, it's what we're faced with as any Division I athletic department, we get no funding from the state to support the athletic programs. What we need to do is go out and generate revenue through ticket sales, through advertising, through contributions, things of that sort to support the scholarship levels that we're responsible for, being a Division I program and covering a lot of the operational expenses of the athletic department. So when we're looking at the dollars and cents of it, there's a tremendous amount of money that's required to fund a Division I athletic program, and that falls on my department.
Obviously, you've got a big game plan because you've got a lot of money to raise, but a lot of areas to cover. Talk about a typical day in athletic marketing.
Well, one of the things that we do on a regular basis is make contact both with people that have been contributors to the program in the past and have been supporters of the program, the business community, individuals, but also we're always looking for new folks to bring on board to tell the story of what we're doing at IPFW with the athletic program and how they can be a part of it. A lot of people in the Fort Wayne area know that we made the move to Division I, but they don't really know what that means. So we get out and tell them and tell them about the good things that the student athletes are doing, the above average grade point averages that our student athletes enjoy, the fact that almost half of our student athletes last semester were on the dean's list, the fact that we've got good students as well as athletes and what that means and what they can do to help support the program. From a business standpoint, we've got a number of businesses in town that, like everybody else, their budgets are tight and they're looking at where they're spending every penny. And what we try to do is show them that supporting the athletic program can be a positive advertising move for them if they're on our radio broadcasts, if they're putting signage in the gate center, if we're doing ads in the program, any number of things. But it's a chance to reach a select market on campus. It's a chance to reach the fans that are going to come out to see the Mastodons play. And it's a good advertising program in general for the business community. So we cover both bases pretty well.
Well, let's talk about one particular segment of the marketing program, and it's one that you're extremely involved in, and that's the Royal Dons Club.
The Royal Dons Club is the booster club, if you will, for the athletic program. Not just one particular sport, but for the IPFW athletics in general. And we have different levels of contribution that we want people to come in at, as low as $100. You come on board, and with that, you get a certain amount of perks. You'll get a regular newsletter from the athletic department. You'll get some window stickers for your car. The next breakpoint level, I guess, is a $500 level, and somebody that contributes $500 is going to get some of the perks that we just mentioned, but they're also going to get an all-season sports pass that'll get them into every home event held at IPFW. And it goes all the way up to, we've got contributors that are very generous with the athletic program, and we've got some different perks built into those levels, that include signage in the arena, program ads, things of that nature. So if somebody wants to get involved, there's a way to support the program at any level that they're comfortable with, and we'll try to make it worth their while to do that and show them our appreciation.
We'll ask for a number in a little bit, but one of the things I want to make sure, and I think you and I are both in agreement on this, yes, we have to go to corporate Fort Wayne to get the major dollars, but anybody that has an interest in IPFW athletics can contribute.
Absolutely, absolutely. If if you're an alumni of the university, if you're like myself and have been here 15, 16 years in the Fort Wayne market, this is home for me. And it's a lot of fun to be able to support a local university. I'm a graduate of another Division I school, and I find my loyalty shifting over to the Mastodons more and more every day because, again, I see the student athletes that we're dealing with, and I see what we can do for them to help them become productive members of the business community when they graduate. And in the meantime, they're learning competitive skills and certainly competing on the field and having a great time at it. And it's a real marketing tool for the university. When folks see IPFW played Michigan last year, and IPFW played Michigan State, and this year IPFW plays UNLV, and we play Oregon State. It gets IPFW and that name out in front of the public beyond just our local area here, but certainly making a name for the university.
I want to ask you a question that I asked Dan in the last segment. We're an NCAA institution, and we're Division I now. We used to be Division II, and now we're Division I. Are there any select marketing guidelines? I asked Dan about as far as for training and what they can and can't say and what they can and can't do as far as working with student athletes, coaches, and physicians. From the marketing standpoint, are there restrictions or guidelines that the NCAA places on you?
Well, there are certain products that we don't necessarily go after for on-campus advertising, and I think you can imagine what some of those might be. But as far as the NCAA, they really don't put a lot of restrictions on until it comes down to tournament time. For instance, you can't have alcohol advertising signage, in the arena, that sort of thing, for tournament games. There's some restrictions on the size of advertising that we can do. We can't put advertising, for instance, behind the backboards for a basketball game. If we choose to put a logo on the floor, which we have a logo sponsor on the floor, it has to fall within certain dimensions. It can't, be overly prominent on the floor. So there's a number of things of that sort that we have to look at. But for the most part, I think the NCAA does a real good job of realizing that in almost every Division I athletic program, the corporate sponsors are a big part of it and are a big part of funding that. And if it doesn't interfere with the contest itself, then they're pretty good about letting us do what we need to do.
I know we're doing something new this year that I've been wanting to do for several years, and that's we're going to be able to broadcast basketball games on radio. Starting with the season opener for men on the 22nd of November against Butler University from the Coliseum. Talk about how you had to go about, because you did a lot of work to get that situation set up.
Well, it's something that I felt very strongly about because, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of my background is in broadcasting. It's in radio and television. And I look back at, not all that long ago when, there were high school games being broadcast on a couple of different stations every Friday and Saturday night. There were TV games being broadcast live from the Coliseum, and unfortunately the IHSAA in a lot of ways has diminished some of that. But the idea to have a Division I basketball program in Fort Wayne and not have the games broadcast on a regular basis really rubbed me the wrong way. So
you and me both.
So that was that was one of our missions, was to get that accomplished. And I spoke with a number of local stations, radio stations, that I thought might have an interest in doing this, and we were very fortunate to strike a very good deal, I think, with WGL Radio. This year we're going to start slow. We don't want to overextend ourselves because we know it's going to take corporate sponsorship to make this fly. So we're carrying all of the home games this year. We've got 10 men's games, 10 women's games on the schedule. Yourself, and along with Dean Jackson from WGL, are going to be our play-by-play and color commentary team, and we're certainly glad to have you guys on board to do that. But we think it's going to be a real good opportunity to get the word out about IPFW basketball. I think we're going to find some fan base out there that, for whatever reason, maybe can't get to the Gates Center, but they can tune in and listen to it on the radio, and develop some new fans out there that eventually we want to get them into the Gates Center. And then next year, hopefully we can expand it to bring in the away games, and because those are the ones that really, I think, are going to get the biggest listenership, especially when folks realize what a great program we've got here at IPFW and what Division I basketball means. To be able to listen to the games on the radio is going to be a real advantage.
You deal with radio, and of course we're doing some games here on Channel 56. I'm going to shift gears slightly. You were also instrumental, and we mentioned this on last week's show. We had Arnie Ball on. We've got 2 volleyball matches that are going to be simulcast on both Channel 56 and Channel 33 in January. To have anything simulcast with 2 different stations is unique, whether it's TV, radio, or TV. Talk a little bit about that.
It's something that Arnie and I kicked around when I first came here. Again, I most recently was with NBC 33, and NBC 33 used to do a lot of live sports coverage, and it's something that a number of the people there miss doing, and it's certainly something that Arnie, his ears kind of perked up when we first talked about that. He's got a couple of big games coming in with George Mason and UC Santa Barbara. So to be able to have those shown on a Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock, it's going to expose IPFW men's volleyball to just a huge audience on those 2 Sunday afternoons. So we're very pleased to be able to do that. We've got some great corporate sponsorship lined up for that, and some people that want to see it happen as much as Arnie and I want to see it happen. So we're extremely excited about those prospects.
Well, we talked TV a little bit, we talked radio, but there's also the print media that you have to deal with. Talk about, You have to wear a lot of hats because you got different segments you have to deal with, and you have to create a different structure. Let's talk about the print media. We hope to have some print advertising to promote some of the games that we're going to have.
Yeah, we're going to do a number of things. One of the things that we're doing, again, you mentioned I'm wearing many hats in addition to generating revenue for the athletic department. Part of what falls under my venue is getting people into the Gate Center and getting people into the Coliseum for those home games. So we've talked to, this went back to last March. I got out and talked to the radio stations, the TV stations, said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to come on board and sponsor some of our games. And as a sponsor, we want you to promote that this Friday night IPFW is playing Butler and what that means. And you can come out and we'll do some ticket giveaways on your station and things of that sort. And we had a lot of stations jump on board and offer to help us with that. And the print comes along with that. We want to do some print with the newspapers to, again, let people know when the games are. We found that a lot of folks just didn't know when our home games were. So we're making a concerted effort through print and electronic media to make sure that people in Fort Wayne know when there's a game going on at the Gate Center and what time it starts and who we're playing. And it's going to be a lot of fun, so come on out and spend some time on campus.
We're getting close to the end of this segment, and I promised you that if someone is interested, and I know we're looking for any and everybody, whether it's a singular individual or whether it's a corporate party like GM or somebody, for anybody who is interested in all in helping to support IPFW athletics, not only in person with the pocketbook or any other way. How can they get in touch with you and your department, and any numbers or addresses?
Well, my direct line is 481-6958, area code 260-481-6958. And I'd certainly encourage anybody that wants to see Division I athletics grow in Fort Wayne and in Northeast Indiana to give us a call and let's talk about what we can do and what you can do to support the program. Corporate entities, we've had a number of folks that have actually seen either a volleyball game or a basketball game on Channel 56, liked what they saw, realized it's a pretty competitive situation, and had given us a call and come on board as a supporter. So we'd certainly encourage people to do that. If there's some value that you see in having a Division I program here in Northeast Indiana, then by all means give us a call and work with us, and we'd love to have your support.
And it's not just basketball or volleyball, but we've got 16 sports.
We've got 16 sports that all travel, that all rack up a lot of food bills on the road and that sort of thing that has to be paid for. And we certainly appreciate the folks that have stepped up to the plate and helped support those programs.
I appreciate you coming over. I know you're a busy man and you got a lot of things happening all the time, but I appreciate the chance for coming over and getting us a chance to introduce you to the public. And
well, I appreciate
you're
it.
on board, and we wish you the best, and we're looking forward to some fun things with IPFW athletics.
Go Dons.
Rick Granger has been our guest. He's the Director of Athletic Marketing. I hope I got that title correct.
That's correct.
Director of Athletic Marketing here at IPFW. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to talk to a different director of sorts, Sports Information Director Mike Jewell. That's when Mastodon Spotlight returns in just a moment. welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. Like I said a moment ago, we're shifting gears once again. Instead of talking to Rick Granger, the Director of Athletic Marketing, we're talking to a director of another sort. We welcome back to the program Sports Information Director, Mike Jewell.
How you doing?
Thank you. Thank you for bailing me out, so to speak.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Once again, we've embarked on another athletic season here at the university. Fall season, believe it or not, is almost over, not quite. Women's volleyball's got a few matches left, but soccer is finished, and tennis for the fall is finished. Cross country is just about finished. I think there might be one meet left for them. Let's talk. This is it your number 4? Your number 3?
No, you're number 4.
You're number 4, just like okay for the program as well. Mastodon Spotlight. Has the job gotten easier or gotten tougher?
In a way, it's gotten a little bit tougher. I mean, there's more of a demand at Division I this year, just like last year, where different teams want more stuff from you, and that's expected, especially when you play big caliber teams like UNLV, San Diego States, and Wyoming, teams like that. But that's something that we expect. We just always hope there's a little gap period between fall and winter before so you can get regroup and rotate around. Unfortunately, this year there's no gap at all. Of course, we started basketball last Saturday, so I had to get switch from volleyball, soccer to basketball mode, and then I'll jump back to volleyball again. But it's one of those things that you're always constantly trying to remember what sport's going on. But it's a lot of fun and it's a lot of work.
I'm going to ask you the stupid, loaded question. What's the toughest part about your job?
I'd say the toughest part of the job is the late hours that you got to put in at night. Sometimes depending on where the team's at, occasionally you'll get stuff from opponents, occasionally you will not. And the tough part is when you don't, because they're counting on students to send it to you. That can get really, really frustrating, and in some cases you just want to rip the rest of your hair out, what little I have left. But it gets really frustrating because we're trying to work not only with our media, but we're trying to work with them and help them out too, in a nice little give and take relationship, because eventually we're going to have to play them in other sports. So they might come up here, and in return we want to do the best we can to help them out, making their job a little bit easier when they actually play us.
Let's talk basketball for a moment. I mean, we've got 16 sports to play with, but basketball is right around the corner, literally. We had, as you said, last weekend, we had the opening preseason game on the men's side. Before you know it, on the 16th, the men play for Rio at Colorado State. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Yeah. The women open up on the 23rd at the University of Minnesota against the Gophers at the University of Minnesota. You've got 30 games for the men. I'm not sure, 28 for the women. Yep. Talk about you said the give and take. Let's start first with your compadres from the schools that we're going up against. What do the two of you as SIDs look for from each other?
For most of the time, since a lot of the teams actually have radio, television, game notes are a necessity for them. They want those, and they want them now. And as we found out last year, I had Chris Marlowe, who's works on ESPN, but also does San Diego State volleyball, calling me at 2 in the morning on New Year's Eve, asking me where his game notes were. That's just a part of it. A lot of these guys need their stuff so they can get a lot of their work done. It helps their people prepare for the games. And if you're not prepared, for radio or TV,
we're in trouble.
You're sort of sitting there saying, well, we don't know much about these people, and it helps them out. But for the most part, a lot of us work together really, really well. Email is probably the best thing in the world. Whoever invented it, you gotta love them. That's saved time for a lot of things. We can fax or email things back and forth to each other right away, hit miss, game files, everything, and it just helps. It helps me out being at home if somebody sends me the game file instead of me sitting there trying to key it in, because if you key it in, it's going to take you a good at least 20-30 minutes to key a basketball box score into our programs.
Well, and you alluded to the fact, and maybe the public doesn't realize this, you and your fellow SIDs provide people like myself who have the chance to bring a contest, be it via radio or TV, with information. But there's so much information. I mean, you're talking about rosters, you're talking about records, you're talking about game-by-game stats. And as basketball, for an example, 2-point field goals, 3-point field goals, free throws, assists, turnovers, blocks, steals, momentum swings, play-by-play, by the moment, score changes, and so forth. That doesn't even begin to talk about other things such as biographical sketches of the players involved, so that we can do our job to inform the public as best we can of the people that they're either listening to on the radio or seeing on the TV. There is so much information. How do you guys do it?
Well,
you mentioned email, obviously,
yeah.
and that's a great help, but tabulating the information, and you and I are both married and we never see our spouses, I guarantee it. But it is a challenge.
Yeah, it is a challenge, but the one thing that I was always taught is you never have enough information, just overload. Give you as much as possible. We like doing that to the newspaper. You just keep giving them. Whatever you use, that's great. Whatever comes out of it, that's only going to help us as a program get noticed a little bit more. And that's the thing that you do. You sit there and you just give them everything. And sometimes you highlight the key points that is going to be needed for television. Different key factors of, say, this person has the last 3 games has 3 double-doubles. I mean, that helps you guys out. Or just little fun stuff like opponents that we have played that have animal names that we've beaten. Just little things. I mean, there's times that I've seen anywhere from records of what you did at home, from what you've when the team is eating spaghetti and not eating spaghetti. I mean, there's all kinds of different ways you could do it. It just depends how creative you want to be, what the media really wants, what they're looking for, and how available you can be to them to help them out to get all this stuff.
I'm going to ask you a similar question to what I asked Dan Fox earlier on the show. Obviously, you wear a lot of hats, just like Dan does. The Grain Journal last segment talked about wearing a lot of hats, doing a lot of different things. How are you able to juggle the requests that you have? You have to deal with coaches. You have to deal with student athletes. You have to deal with your athletic director. You have to deal with the print media, the electronic media. And that's not even counting, now that we're Division I status, talking to ESPN, talking to Fox Sports Net, possibly talking to CBS in terms of basketball. Freelance writers that may want to do feature interviews on players. You have access to information that probably nobody else on campus has. How do you manage to say what you want to say, what you can say, and avoid saying what you can't say?
Well, in most cases, I mean, you watch yourself. You know what you don't want to have out in the media. You know you want to try to keep anything that's bad or may look bad to the program. A lot of cases you don't have to worry because the athletes are actually good kids, and they're easy to work with or easy to talk to. The coaches have been very easy to talk to this year. They're understanding that they've got to be more interactive with us. They've got to help us out. I mean, I've got Brian Miller and Mindy Mills helping me out this year. But the thing is, you just got to sit there and say, okay, what do we want? What do we need? What are they looking for? How can we help them? And you just constantly, I mean, a lot of people that I know sit down and write it in their books on what they have. If I put it down on a piece of paper, it's somewhere in the office. Everything I try to do, I keep it up in my head. I know what I need to get done. I know what needs to be done. I know when it needs to be done. And I just go boom, boom, boom. Every day, I mean, you're constantly reworking the stuff that you've done before to get out so it's better for the program, so we look good.
Without trying to get anybody unhappy with anybody or mad at anybody or in trouble with anybody, I'm going to pick on the print media for a moment. Last year we had both Blake Sebring from the News Sentinel Jay Cohen from the Journal-Gazette on its separate programs. It's a little bit more unique relationship you have with those people and with the News Sentinel and the Journal-Gazette being our hometown newspapers than perhaps you do with our TV stations. There isn't, correct me if I'm wrong, but there really isn't that much that we're doing with radio. Yes, we're going to broadcast games this year for basketball, but in the past there hasn't been that much as far as work with local radio.
Yeah.
Talk about the relationship you've got with the two newspapers in town, because you and I both know, we've been in this business long enough, there's information that you can say, there's information you cannot say, and those people are paid to get you to give the information that you're not supposed to give. Again, we're not trying to get anyone mad at us or anything like that, but it's a unique relationship that you have representing the university with the print media here in Fort Wayne.
Yeah, actually it's a lot of fun. I mean, dealing with Blake and Jay and even Reggie and Ben over there. Then this year Ashley with volleyball. It's been a lot of fun. It's give and take. Sometimes you don't give everything out, but they do want to take everything, and you want to give them as much as you can. Jay's been known definitely to try to figure out ways to get around. Hey, Mike, how can I get this? But you know what? They're great to deal with. I love working with them. I think I got a good relationship with all of them. I respect them and what they do because I know how many hours they're putting in to write stories. I also know what kind of sports they've got to do. They're just not limited to IPFW. And a lot of times you've got to take that perspective. I mean, I see a lot of times I want to give them just all that I can, but I realize that they've got other things with high school sports. You've also got other locals, sports, college, and Indiana, Purdue, stuff like that. And you've just got to be patient. I mean, your turn will come, especially if you win. And that I do know. If you win, the media will definitely help you out a lot more. If you're going through hard times and losing, yeah, we've got to find unique and creative ways to make it interesting. Human interest stories are great. I know News Sentinel and Journal-Gazette love those. They love to have something that's a human interest story that they can give back to the community saying, hey, such and such, like Keon Henderson is an ordained minister. I mean, that's something that's interesting. That as a college student, now he's a senior, that he was an ordained minister, and I mean, we know that he's married people, he's done funerals and stuff like that. That's the kind of stuff the media really wants to know. They want to know about these kids, their lives, and what they do out in the community, or what they've done in the past, and
what they do away from the athletic field.
Yeah, and it's very personal when you start getting into that area, and sometimes you got to watch what you do and what you don't do, or what you say and what you don't say. But for the most part, the writers for the News Sentinel and Journal-Gazette will not sit there and pressure you into saying stuff that you don't want to say, and that's because they're just that good. I mean, they're good to deal with.
And I know the checks are in the mail.
Yeah, I don't know the addresses, but I'll send them.
We don't have too much time left, but I do want to, in the final minute we do have, one quick comment. You've also dealt in professional sports, with the Wizards primarily. How has that helped you here at the university?
In a lot of cases, it has helped me out a lot. Basically, when I started out, it really helped me when I was in Defiance College because I still kept in contact with all the guys over here. Back at that time, you had Dick DeFay, that was this sports writer for NBC, and then you had Ken Horman there too. Dean Pantazzi, who's been around. Mark Wolf was helping out with NBC, and a lot of them was shuffled with Randy Schiffman and stuff. So I've got to know them for a long time. And it was great when I was working with the Wizards because I got to see them all the time. I know what they're looking for, and I know that I can help them out in any way, and I will. I mean, that's my job. They know that they can call me at home, even though a couple of them were sort of scarce at calling me at home. Blake doesn't like to call me at home, but I don't mind. I mean, if I'm at home and the basketball team's on the road, I'm probably either listening to the basketball team on the internet or sitting there watching other basketball teams play on ESPN Full Court. I want to know as much as I can. So if somebody calls me late at night, that is not a problem. I like to be free to them for whatever they need. and they know that they can call me at any time. I'll try to give them a call back as quick as I can. Sometimes I am far away from the phone. They know I don't like my cell phone. They know I hate using cell phones, but for the most part, if they catch me at work or catch me at home, I'm at one or two places. If I'm in between there, I'm normally out at one of our sporting events, but other than that, those are my two homes, which is scary.
And they send flour and candy to your wife, too.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you wonder if I do have a kitchen and a hotel and everything sitting in the office, but I mean, it's just one of those things that you're either there or there, but you're working at one of the two places. But it has been nice that I've been able to move most of my office stuff to home where I can work from home. They can get a hold of me, I can get a hold of them, and there's not very many problems where we miss each other.
We're out of time. Boy, we have fun, and I do appreciate you coming over because you don't have much time, but as always, and you help us, and you've helped me for 5 years now, so you know how I feel. You've been a great help to help me do some of the stuff here in Channel 56 and otherwise. So go get some rest, and we will talk to you down the road. We do have Roundtable 4 coming up. And,
oh boy.
And a couple other jams later in December. So thanks for coming in.
Well, thanks for having me.
Mike Joe's been with us, our Sports Information Director here at IPFW. We thank Mike. We thank Rick Granger, Director of Athletic Marketing. We thank Dan Fox, the Head Athletic Trainer. And we thank you for tuning in to see what's going on with IPFW Athletics this week. Quick reminder, up ahead this weekend, the women's volleyball team finishes regular season play at Wisconsin-Milwaukee tomorrow, at Wisconsin-Green Bay on Sunday, and then next weekend they go to Corpus Christi for the National Independent Tournament. Soccer is now finished, tennis is finished, cross country has one meet to go, the national meet, I believe it's in a week or two, down at Indiana State University. Sunday, alumni basketball game at 1 o'clock here at the Gates Center, followed by the final exhibition or preseason game, men's basketball, Olivet College, NCAA Division III school, I believe, MIAA, is going to be here at 3 o'clock tip-off, so come on over to the Gates Sports Center to see the men's basketball team in action. And next week, we're going to have Doug Knoll on. Our men's basketball preview show will take place, but that's next week when Mastodon Spotlight returns. Until next week, this is Mike Moss saying have a great week and go Dons. It is now the time of the year where we concentrate our efforts on the basketball court. On this week's edition of Mastodon Spotlight, we're going to preview the 2002-2003 men's basketball team with head coach Doug Knoll. Our show is called Mastodon Spotlight, and it's coming up next. Hi again, everybody. I'm Mike Moss. Welcome to another edition of Mastodon Spotlight. Well, as I said a moment ago, it's the time of the year where we concentrate on indoor sports and primarily basketball. It's old man winter's just about here. The weather's getting colder. We haven't seen the snow yet, but give it time. So this week we're going to talk men's basketball, and we're happy to have back with us once again the head coach, year number 4, Doug Knoll.
Good to be back, Mike, and year number 4, that sounds like a lot of years already, and it seems like it's gone so quick.
It really has. As I mentioned to you before we started taping, we're going to take a brief look back at last year. But last year, in many senses of the word, was an historic year because we really started finding out what Division I basketball was all about. Quick thoughts on the year that was completed last year?
Well, as I look back, I was really pleased with the outcome that we had based on injuries early and losing a lot of big kids. When you looked at, we lost 6'7", 6'8", and 6'10" for almost 2/3 of the year, and the teams that we played, I think we really hung in there. I think the guys really gave a big-time effort each and every night out. When I look back, I see that we only lost 3 games by more than 20 points. We lost 10 games by a total of 2 possessions, and our Achilles heel was the paint. And when you're losing big kids and you don't have a lot of kids, to put in those positions, when you're putting your 2 guards and your 3 guards against power forwards, the outcome usually isn't very good, and that's what happened. But we learned a lot from last year. We really found out, how far we need to go. I think D'Angelo Woodall summed it up best at the end of the year. He goes, "Now we know." And now we know, and we can know, but now we have to go do it. And our depth is better. We've got more kids. We are a young basketball team this year, and sometimes that scares me a little bit. We've got 7 players that have a total of 9 college games. 1 player has the 9, and 6 others haven't played a college basketball game yet. So we are very limited as far as experience goes, but the experience that we do have back, I think, is good. I do like our freshmen and our young kids, but again, it's just a feeling out process of getting into it and really trying to find out, who's going to do what for us in what positions, and our depth a little bit, and if we can stay away from injury again. And I can honestly say this is the first year of my last 5 that we haven't had a major injury. We've got a couple minor injuries, dislocated finger, broken cheekbone, but those guys will play tomorrow at Colorado State, and so we're looking forward to that. We've got a big job ahead of us. 4 games in 7 days when we kick off the season. 3 at Colorado State, and then we come back for the Butler homecoming. So once it gets here, it just takes off.
Before we start looking at this year's team, I got 2 questions for you. I know a couple times when we were on last year, we talked about the fact that you had the option as a coach scheduling opponents, and you made the choice of scheduling 24 D1 opponents last year. Hindsight's always 20/20. Looking back, are you happy you made that decision to actually get a glimpse as to what D1 life is all about?
I think so. I think in the long run it's really going to help our program because it helped recruiting. My wife thinks it's professional suicide, that we schedule all these high majors and we go out and compete against teams that we may not be ready for right now, but it's like the old cliche that you can grab your little brother and go out on the basketball court and, beat him up every time you get out there, or you can get the neighborhood bully and go after him, and you may not always win, but you're going to get a lot better. And those are the things that we really looked at. We had the opportunity to do that. What people sometimes don't realize is we were not Division I last year. We were Division II in our second year of transition. We are now full-fledged Division I for about 70 days. So we are the newest member of 327 Division I schools, basketball programs, you name it. And we all know that men's basketball is a completely different animal. We're just trying to get better each and every day. We have our sights set high. Not that we think we're going to go 25-5 by any means, but I really don't put numbers on what we want to do. If we go out and compete at the highest level that we can, then I'm going to be satisfied. We want to win, don't get me wrong, because if it wasn't about winning or losing, they wouldn't keep score. So we want to win, but when we're making a big effort like Michigan State last year and some of those games where we really played well, I think we can take satisfaction in the process that we are getting better, that each and every year we have better recruits, and we have to get this thing, jump started. I mean, 2 years ago, Mike, we had under 5 scholarships, and now we got 13. And, we had a small budget, and now we have a big budget. But, that process for me is one of, I'm very impatient, and I want everything now, but it doesn't happen. So what we've got to do is take the little steps first so that we don't have to go backwards. We can keep going forwards, and then just, work as hard as we can work every single day.
As we start now to take a look at the 2002-2003 roster, what were you and Joe and Fred's goals in terms of recruiting? Right off the bat, we lose a great guard, 3-year starter, Nick Wise, 19 points a game, about 42% free throw, 3-point shooting, I should say. So what were the top goals in looking for replacement parts, so to speak, on the recruiting trail?
Well, we were fortunate that we had, I believe, losing a couple guys, we had 5 scholarships to give, and so we went out and ended up getting 5 freshmen, 4 on scholarship, and then we had 2 kids sitting out in Rick Wyan and Dave Simon, 6'7" and 6'10". Unfortunately, 2 weeks after the season, Dave blew out his knee, and that was a whole summer or 5-month process of rehabbing, and he only got released in later September, so we haven't had Dave very long. But what we wanted to do is a couple different things. One is we want to bring really good student athletes into our program and onto our campus. It's not going to do us any good. Number one, we're not an NBA feeder system. We did get calls on Nick last year from the NBA, but they don't leave any stones unturned. So, with all due respect to Nick, he's not going to play in the NBA, but we're still working on some overseas things with him. But what we want to do is fill some voids, and if it takes 2 or 3 guys to replace him, a couple of our veterans need to step up. The other thing is, quick fixes right now are not in the direction that we're going. In other words, it's not going to do us as much good, I don't believe, to bring in transfers and junior college kids because you only have those players for 2 years, and about the time they get acclimated, then they're a senior. And really, that's not the direction we want to go in our program, because what we want to do is go out and get freshmen that can be here 4 years or 5 years, maybe redshirt a couple of these guys, and then we've got second-year freshmen, third-year sophomores. Right now we've got Terry Collins as a third-year sophomore, Dave Simon's a third-year sophomore. And these kids will, Jeremy King's a fifth-year senior, Keon Henderson will be a fifth-year senior next year. That plays a big part in building a program and building a base, because that base, the stronger the base is, the stronger the entire house is going to be. And so that's what we want to do. Yeah, in the long run, we could win a few more games this year or next year by maybe getting in better talent right now and more experienced players. But I think if we get those student athletes in that can excel in the classroom, can come in and learn our system, and then process through our system in the next 4 or 5 years, I think in 2 to 3 to 4 years, then that's when we start to see the fruits of our labor. And I think it makes for more of an ideal basketball family where these guys are going through for 4 years. So that's really the goal that we have right now as far as Joe and Fred and Cliff and I. We want to bring in 5 more freshmen this next year. I can't talk about it yet because we haven't signed national letters of intent, but we've got 2 commitments already. We're looking for 2 more, and then maybe even bringing in another walk-on or 2 of young kids to really jumpstart this program, and that's the way we're looking at going.
Well, I think what I want to do is go what I call an inverse order then. Instead of usually I go with the seniors, juniors, sophomores, and the freshmen, let's talk with the recruiting class that you brought in this year. And let's talk about the incoming kids first.
Okay, well, 2 kids that aren't freshmen that really are sophomores are Rick Wyan and Dave Simon. Rick, unfortunately, had some academic struggles last year and doing much better right now. Some kids mature more than others. It was really difficult a year ago to recruit because we had an 8-year wait hanging over our head. Mark kind of refers to it as a ball and chain around our neck. And it was very difficult to recruit kids to say, well, come on in and play here at IPFW, you'll get a great degree, and in the meantime, you'll never go to a tournament. That's difficult. So, we had to take some chances on kids, and unfortunately last year, not everything went our way. Halfway through the year, they rescinded that to a 2-year wait, and right away our recruiting just picked up overnight. I mean, now you're selling kids on the fact that, hey, we've got 2 of the best Big Ten universities in the nation right here under the same roof. We have a national schedule, and now we can see light at the end of the tunnel that if you are a freshman, hopefully by the time you're out of here, we've got a couple, we're in a conference, and we've got a couple conference tournaments that we're able to go to, and then we can start the process of getting better so that maybe in a few years past that we can challenge for a conference championship and go to the big dance. I mean, hey, anything's possible. So, but those two guys give us some stability. Dave Simon, last game had 13 points, 8 rebounds. The first game had 8 points, 9 rebounds. He's 6'10", 250. He's really given us another dimension inside. He's completely not in shape yet. He's not totally 100%. He's about 80, 85 right now. We've been really working with him because he missed the entire spring, summer, and part of fall. And Rick was an Indiana All-Star. He scored 45 on Pike his junior year, 35 his senior year. And the kid can score. He's got to learn our defensive system a little better yet. But he really brings a dimension. He had 21 our first game, and then 15 the second game. So he's averaging somewhere around 18 points a game in the exhibition games, and he gives us a long-range shooter plus a kid that can go inside and play as well. And then we brought in 5 freshmen, 4 on scholarship. Tyler Clevenger from Winchester was a first-team All-State, honor student, great young man. We're going to combo him this year, and he's got a tough job this year because he gets to guard D'Angelo a lot. And D'Angelo, is really working him over this year early, and that's going to do nothing but help Tyler get better. He can shoot the basketball. He's just got to get his confidence. And early on, D was picking his pocket every day and really frustrating him. And then you could see him getting over the hump a little bit, controlling it a little more. He could be a John Stockton type. When you look at him, he doesn't wow you, but really he plays a lot from the shoulders on up, and that's what he's got to do. He's got to take advantage of that because he's not the quickest, he's not the fastest, but he has a lot of basketball skills. Along with him is his sidekick Kyle Thrasher from Floyd Central, Indiana, Southern Indiana, and we're really thrilled with this kid as well. He's 6'8", he's about 220. Yes sir, no sir with him. The first couple times, I just kind of, you don't get that from kids today, and he's a type of young man that we're thrilled to have in our program. In fact, dropping names a little bit, Royce Waltman from Indiana State saw me at the Final Four and said, well, we really missed on Thrasher. We should have really recruited him a little bit harder. And I said, well, that's fine. We would have got him anyways because we really recruited him hard. And he's going to be an impact player for us and possibly start right out of the blocks. Unfortunately, last week he fractured his cheekbone in practice, but we've got him a face mask now, and he's not going to miss any games. He did miss the last exhibition game, but he's going to bring a lot to our program, and we're real excited about that. Another player from the Columbus, Ohio area, Canal Winchester, is Brandon Jennings, 6'6", about 235, scored 28 points, 14 rebounds a game last year, really has a lot of skill. What he makes up in non-athleticism kind of reminds you of a bigger Nick Wise. Shoots the ball very well, just has to find his confidence, can really play against bigger kids, can go inside, can go outside, and again, as quick as he adapts to bigger, quicker, stronger guys, the more he'll play, and I think you'll see this kid do a lot while he's here for the 4 years. And then we're fortunate to have a player that we got late. This was a crazy situation, but Quentin Carruthers out of Flint, Michigan, Flint Central. We lost a kid during the middle of the summer that signed a national letter of intent with us, and we lost him to West Point. Now, when you hear those things, it kind of makes you realize we're getting some pretty good kids in because they just don't take anybody at West Point. But the kid we had coming in was a first-team All-State out of Ohio. He was a 3.8 GPA, and unfortunately for us, his papers came in late. And he said, Coach, I just got to go. And, of course, you can't fault a kid for wanting to go to West Point either. But we lost him, and through Rutgers basketball out of the Big East, Michigan State, we were able to find this student athlete. It only took about 2 days. We sold him on us, Michigan State, and Rutgers sold him on us, and they sold him on us on him as well. And he's just been a great find, about 6'3", about 175, and we thought about redshirting him early, but we're going to play him now. He's very athletic, shoots the basketball pretty well. He's got to, again, learn to be a little more physical, but he's going to do well. And then we got a walk-on, Graham Nesbitt from Plymouth, England, spent 2 years over here, 1 year in high school and 1 year at Independence Community College. And so We're really looking forward to this young group, and like I said, there's 7 guys that have played a total of 9 college basketball games, so that's exciting, but it's very scary too, and hopefully these guys will learn real quick.
Well, those are some of the newcomers. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to hear from some of the veterans, as there was a media luncheon last week at a local restaurant here in town, and after the break, we're going to have interviews that I had a chance to have with senior Brad Knoll, senior D'Angelo Woodall, and sophomore Terry Collins. But those interviews will take place when Mastodon Spotlight returns in just a moment.
I helped turn my child's public school into one with extended hours, 6 days a week year-round, filled with loads of academic, cultural, and recreational activities. One with medical and dental services right there. A school where students are excited about learning. There's just one problem. My child doesn't ever want to come home. Turn your school into a community school for excellence. Find out how. Call 1-877-LOVE-TO-LEARN.
Excuse me. Excuse me, are you Santa Claus? I heard you might be him. If you are him, here's my list.
Help the Marines make Christmas possible for less fortunate children. Donate a new toy to Toys for Tots.
Here's Santa Claus.
I have a chance now to speak with one of the veterans on this IPFW men's basketball team. 4th year. Hard to believe, Brad Knoll. This is your 4th year here at IPFW. Thoughts on, hey, this is the last hurrah?
Well, every year just keeps getting faster. But we learn to build our program. We've learned to battle adversity. And, you know, we've learned all the minor cuts and bruises are somewhat behind us. There's more to come, but I think the veterans we have really established our program, and in years to come, I think it's going to be some success here at IPFW.
Let's take a brief look back. You've been here 3 years, and as you say, there have been a lot of bumps and bruises, some ups, more downs. Your thoughts on 3 years of hard work here at IPFW?
Whenever you go to work, I guess you always expect that paycheck, and you know the years when you're not having the success that you think, sometimes it feels like you're not getting that reward that you put your hard work into. And when you have a passion for something, as does our basketball team, we really enjoy the success we have. But at the same time, it's all about hard work and effort. And if we can emulate what some of the top programs are doing and kind of follow them in our steps, I think that'll lead to success. And even though sometimes your win-loss record doesn't show it, we gained success. Last year was successful. We played 24 Division I teams, and we didn't have to. But our schedule was a benchmark for our program for years to come. It basically highlighted what we're all about, and that's, if you're at the top level, you might as well play with the top guys. And our experience that all of our veterans have now, that's successful. And so those are the things we have to take out. You can't always, find success in the wins and losses, but the experience we have now is definitely.
Let's take that a step further. You, D'Angelo Woodall, are both 4-year players here at IPFW. You have another teammate, Jeremy King, senior, who played here last year. I know one thing that your dad has always looked for is the experience, the senior leadership.
Right.
What are you three doing maybe a little bit different getting ready for this season than you have for past seasons?
I think the whole attitude in practice is different. it's one that we're not afraid of conflict, and if a guy's not working hard, we're going to get on him. We have different types of leaders. We have verbal leaders. We have leaders by example, and all of us have our role in being leaders on the team. I think that as we set the tone, practice is basically what really correlates our whole philosophy. And if we can learn to criticize one another, but also be the first one to tell them when they're doing a good job, then I think that's what our experience has helped us with. Because I know, I didn't have anyone getting on me as from a player's perspective. When I was coming up through the system, and that's really where you build a team and a program.
This year's team, it's a lot different from last year. One big component that you're going to miss, there's no way to get around it, is Nick Wise. He averaged 18 points last year. He was a number 1 3-point shooter on this team. You were the number 2 3-point shooter on this team. How do you replace a teammate like Nick Wise?
Yeah, you don't replace Nick. I mean, great guy, great individual, and a great basketball player. He provided us with what we needed last year, and that was a lot of scoring. And you tend to you don't want to try to replace him. You want to try to build around him, something he's given us, something that we work on in an aspect of his game. We'll pick up the scoring. I mean, someone has to score. So, we'll have a leading scorer this year. We'll have a leading rebounder. So I think in the sense of points go, someone's gonna replace that. No one will fill his shoes, though, as far as what he brought to the team, hard work and dedication, and then he did help us out with the points every once in a while.
Every once in a while. Final question for you, being the last hurrah, what are your personal hopes, goals, and dreams for this season, from both an individual standpoint and from the team standpoint?
I think I want to be successful, and that's you can't really measure that with a stick. I don't know if you can put a number on wins and losses. What's success? Everyone, they say beauty's in the eyes of the beholder. So we can't really put a number on a successful season and saying if we win this, X amount of games, are we successful? But I think if we grow as a team and as individuals, and we really gain some leaders from this year, I think that's the step and the direction that our program needs to go in.
I wish you well.
Thank you.
We'll see how we do as the course of the season progresses.
All right, appreciate it.
Senior tri-captain Brad Knoll. I have a chance now to speak with one of the veterans on this IPFW men's basketball team, fourth-year player, senior D'Angelo Woodall from Freeport, Illinois. D'Angelo, this is your last hurrah. But let's briefly look back the last 3 years. It's definitely been an experience, I would think.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I say my first year I came in probably 135 pounds soaking wet and pretty much had no clue what was going on as far as Division II basketball, and now Division I.
Still no clue, huh?
No, I have a clue. Right now, this team is coming along quicker than what I thought it would. With the freshmen he's added, they did a tremendous job coming in, and you could ask no more from them. And I just think we're developing pretty quick, and hopefully we have a good run this year, being my senior year.
Last Sunday you got the season started. You want to call it exhibition, you want to call it preseason. Unofficial victory, but a victory nevertheless, 76-62 over Marion College out of Indianapolis. Typical day at the park for you, 8 points, 4 assists, 2 steals. Thoughts on this season opening get-together?
Like you said, it's an exhibition. It's just to see where we're at right now and what we need to improve on going into this Mountain West tournament and playing UNLV and those teams. I think our on-the-ball defense was great, and that's what we expected. But our off-the-ball defense, we need a lot of work. Coaches harp on the ball defense, and now they're pretty much going to harp on off-the-ball defense. But I think all around, I think everyone did pretty much did a pretty good job.
What do you feel at this point are the strengths and the weaknesses of this team?
I think our strength would be probably our scoring. We know we can score, and the coaches know we can score. But I think off-the-ball defense is definitely a weakness for this team right at this point in time. But I'm pretty sure we'll be able to fix that with no problem.
You and Brad Noel have been here. This is your 4th year for each of you. Looking back, you don't regret the coming to IPFW, do you?
Oh, no, not one bit. I mean, it's okay, I came here for basketball, true enough, but I think the school in itself was a great fit for me. I mean, you're getting a Division I degree, Indiana or Purdue degree, so you couldn't beat that at all.
This year, you've got something new to offer. The fact that you've got a couple of big-sized guys that you can get the ball inside to, and I'm referring to David Simon, who finally gets a chance to play following the transfer and knee surgery, and Jim Kesnick, who he's 6'10", came here as a string bean, but he's put on some weight, and he's now here for his 3rd year. How important is that to you and to Terry playing in the backcourt to be able to have that option of trying to get the ball inside?
I think that'll give us some rest. Me, Terry, and myself, we are, I say, aggressive defenders. And when you're on the offensive end, that's usually where you get your rest at. So you can dump it down to the big guys and just let them get a chance to show what they can do and let them work out. And you get a rest on offense, so you can get back and get ready to play defense again.
You're starting the season off for real next weekend. You go to Colorado State. You're going to play in that Black Coaches Association tournament, 3 games in 4 days. But you start off by playing Colorado State, a team that you played last year. How important is it for you to start off the season playing against a familiar opponent?
Well, to me, I think what I'm thinking mainly here myself is that we owe them one. I mean, that's something that's been on my mind since the coaches told we were going to play in that tournament, that we would play them first. That's basically what's been on my mind, is we owe them one.
4th year, final year, personal hopes, goals, and dreams, and team hope, goals, and dreams. What are yours for this coming year?
Just to really have a successful season. I have no knock to Coach Noel and his coaching. I mean, he's done a great job. We haven't been dealt the best of cards since I've been here, but we haven't really been successful in the win column, which is not all that important. But I think with this team, we could really do that, and that's one thing. That's a personal goal for myself, and team goal, just to play hard all the time, and not to give up no matter who we're playing, and just show heart at all times.
Best of luck.
Thank you, sir.
Senior D'Angelo Woodall. Have a chance now to speak with a homegrown product here at IPFW, Fort Wayne Snyder graduate, sophomore at IPFW, Terry Collins. And Terry, you get to play a full season. How important is that going to be?
It's very important. It's the first time I've started a season in about 2 or 3 years, so I'm looking forward to it.
Looking back last year, you made the transfer. You had to sit out. You weren't able to play until, I think, basically, the first of the year or last couple of days of December. Briefly talk about last year, your first experience at the D1 level.
Well, it was kind of hard to sit out and watch my teammates, and I could be in there helping them. But it was kind of a learning experience as well, because last year I was in decent shape, which I thought was great shape for me, because I never really worked that hard to get in shape. But last year playing that first game, I got hit by a couple of screens, and I seen what D1 was all about. So this year I told myself, hey, you have to start at the beginning of the year. You need to be ready. You need to be in shape. You need to be ready to help your team out. So I think I'm ready to go, and I'm probably in good shape, but I think I could be a lot better shape. But I'm in better shape than I was last year. So.
What did you do differently over the summer?
I think I just bought into what Coach Noel was asking of me. I worked a lot harder as far as conditioning and lifting weights, which I always enjoyed lifting weights, but I never really liked conditioning. But I kind of bought into that. So, I think overall right now I'm just trying to become a complete player. So the conditioning is going to help me out a lot this year.
The makeup of this year's team is a lot different from last year.
Mm-hmm.
You lose your leading scorer, Nick Wise. He averaged 18 points a game. He was the leading three-point shooter as well. You've got to help fill some of those shoes. You feel up to the challenge?
Of course, but I learned a lot from Nick too. I mean, he wasn't. Let's just be honest. He wasn't the greatest athlete, but he was a great player. And sitting there watching him, I learned so much because no matter what defenses did, they couldn't stop him because he played smart. It wasn't just I'm gonna catch and shoot. He used his teammates to get open and get his shots off. So what I'm gonna look for is I'm gonna try to help my teammates out as much as I can, because it's not just going to be one. It's not just going to be me. It's going to be a whole team effort to fill a great player like Nick's shoes.
It's no secret everyone who plays basketball likes to shoot, likes to score, but taking the shooting aside, what's the favorite part of your game and what's the worst part that you hate about the game?
Well, my favorite part would probably be just, even though I don't do it much, I like to get assists. So, it pleases me when I can help a teammate score or get a teammate open, for a dunk or a nice shot or something like that. But probably my least favorite of the game is probably defense right now. But it's becoming my favorite because with my conditioning, I've been working a lot hard on defense, and that's the part of my game that I am trying to improve on.
This year, another tough schedule, and you start off going out to Colorado next week. Going to play Colorado State. I'm not sure if last year you were able to play in the game against them or not.
Yeah, that's my first game.
It was the first game.
Yeah.
Thoughts on playing the Rams once again?
Well, personally, I hope to have a better showing than I did last year, but I think it'll be good for us because it's a team that's solid. They lost like 2 people, I think, and they have a lot of players that played last year returning. So that game will probably pretty much tell us where we stand and what we need to do to improve because our schedule is only going to get harder.
What are your hopes, goals, and dreams for this coming season?
Well, I could say, I hope we have a better season than last year, but I hope we have a much better season last year. I just don't want to go out and, have teams tell us, you guys play hard, you work hard. I want to go out and, have teams say, those guys are tough, you know what I'm saying? They played us great, and, I want to come out with victories. I don't want to come out with losses and have them being learning experiences. I want wins, and I hope that this year, we come out and we make a run, and teams just, they don't just look at us as ISPW, look at us as a team that they have to play hard against.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
That's sophomore Terry Collins.
Excuse me, I can't seem to find these anywhere.
These books are no longer available.
I didn't know.
May I have your name, please?
Why?
Excuse me.
What did I do?
We just have a couple of questions.
Easy.
Stargate. That's the door to other worlds that my character Tilk and the rest of my team use on Stargate SG-1. It's a door to exploration and exciting adventure. An education can provide you with a similar passageway to a world full of possibilities. So stay in school and graduate.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. This week's show, we're previewing the men's basketball team for 2002-2003. We are rejoined now by the head coach of IPFW men's basketball, Doug Knoll. And Doug, we had a chance, and I really appreciate, I like the idea of the media luncheon, and we had the chance to speak. Of course, we spoke with you, but the viewers didn't see that, but we spoke with your son, Brad, and D'Angelo Woodall, and Terry Collins. And you talked earlier about the senior leadership. Brad and Dee really have to step it up and come through.
Yeah, no doubt. These guys have been here 4 years now in our program, and nothing for them has been easy since they've been here. We struggled in Division II because of the lack of scholarshiping. Now we've got the full scholarships. Now we're jumping up to Division I, and because we're not in the conference yet, we're playing a lot of high majors. But these kids are resilient. These kids, I would go to war with them any day of the week. You know what you're going to get from them. They work extremely hard. The saying, if you don't know the struggle, you don't know the strength. And these kids really know their strength. And when they get out of here this next year and go into the field or the area that they're specializing in college right now, if I was somebody looking for some kids, I would hire these guys, because they're going to come ready. They're going to give you an effort every single time out, and I just speak volumes of Dee and Brad and Keon, who is redshirting this year, but will be a fifth-year senior next year. And these guys have come up through a lot of struggles, but they're really the backbone of our program right now, and we're really proud of them.
There are two players we haven't mentioned, and we'll briefly touch on them. They're both veterans. They both have the initials JK. I'll start first with senior Jeremy King, who was a transfer from Toledo, Ohio last year. And in looking up numbers, as I'm prone to do, I noticed that of the 28 games last year, what I call little JK, because he's only 6'6" or 6'7", was leading scorer 7 games. But he's a very athletic jumper. And the other JK, who I call Big JK, is 6'10" junior Jim Kesnick out of Pewaukee, Wisconsin. You think now after 3 years I'd make sure I get the name pronounced right and the city pronounced right. But both JKs are going to be integral to the success of this year's team. Well,
there's no doubt about it. Jeremy really brings us a explosive type athlete that can play on both ends of the floor. He can shoot the basketball, and we've improved his three-point shooting since he's been here. He can take the ball to the basket. Here's a kid that, against Eastern Kentucky, dropped in 28 points, 13 rebounds. That's a big-time game. Against Michigan and Michigan State, he averaged like 16.5 points a game, and that's right up there with the leaders of the Big Ten. Now, we didn't go through a full Big Ten season, but when you're playing Michigan State, and, you can score, 16, 17 points against those type teams, you have to be able to play. And that's what Jeremy really brings us. And again, he's had, 3 coaches in 4 years, and that's been a struggle, for him to learn 3 different systems. First at Bowling Green with Dan Dockich, and then at Owens Community College, and now here. But hopefully he understands what we want from him. He gives us a very athletic small forward or power guard, whichever one you want to look at. But he can break people down off the dribble. He gets up and down the floor. He can defend the other team's best perimeter player. Long arms, very athletic, and he's got to bring us consistency night in and night out. That's what we've got to have. He's an emotional type player, and he plays with emotion, sometimes gets too emotional, and we try to curtail that a little bit from him. But he basically really brings us a legitimate Division I basketball player, and how he goes, I think we're going to go some this year, because he gets up and down the floor so well and can score inside and can score outside. And I'm looking forward to a good senior year from him. And when you look at he, D'Angelo, and Brad, there's 3 really pretty good kids that are going to see a lot of minutes this year. And we lose those 3 all from kind of the guard spot. But fortunately for us, they're here this year. They've got to take us into this first year of Division I, and as I told the guys, 5, 10, 15 years from now, we hope our program is going to be a lot farther down the road, a lot better, but there's only one first year, and that's this year. And so what we need to do is realize that and go out and just play this year at a high level, have fun with it, and know that this is the first group that is embarked on, this huge transition, but these guys will really be a big part of it. And then talking about Jim Kesnick, Jim has continually worked at getting bigger and stronger. You'd think at 6'10", he's a post player, but he gives us really a dimension from the perimeter as well. And he's probably more versed at say, a 4 spot, which is a power forward, which faces the basket more. And then we've got, Kyle Thrasher and also Dave Simon to play the 5. Now, we will have Jim at the 5 some, but he can face the basket, shoot the 3. He's doing a much better job when he's aggressive. Like the second exhibition game, he had 13 points, 7 rebounds in 15 minutes. The first game he had 3 and 3, and I set him down. And we didn't play him for the first 10 minutes of our exhibition game, and I only gave him 15 minutes. But there's a reason why, and it's because he is so valuable to our team. And if he is non-aggressive, he is a non-factor. And if he's aggressive, he can be an impact player for us, and that's what he's got to realize. But he was a 4.1 GPA coming out of high school. He's changed his major a couple times, all in the engineering field. Right now it's architectural engineering. But, Dave Simon at 6'10", was a 3.6 in chemistry, and so our 6'10" guys are, they're a big group of brains, and these guys, take physics and take chemistry and all this, and maintain their GPAs, and yet are both a sophomore and junior on the basketball floor, and I think we're going to get a lot from these guys this year.
You've had 2 chances to see the team play 2 exhibition games, preseason games, whatever you want to call them. We won't spend too much time on it. But you defeated Marion College from the MCC. You're familiar with from your days coaching Spring Arbor, 86-72. And last Sunday you took on Olivet College from the MIAA. And wasn't the best of games per se. Final score 90-86. The fact that both games were victories for a team that's looking for victories, how important were they?
Well, to the coaching staff, not very. To the players, hopefully they realize we have a long way to go. And, when you play, and we do this specifically, we play a team that, is more transitional, gets up and down the floor, and then we play a team that's more traditional, like Marion, who has very smart, quick guards. They execute very well. So we try to get a couple different looks. And I don't think people understand just how college basketball evolves. I mean, these kids, both at this level, like you have the St. Francis's of the world, the Indiana Techs, the Spring Arbors, the Huntington Colleges, the Grace Colleges, these kids can play basketball, and in some cases are much better basketball players than a lot of Division I kids. The Division I kids are bigger, stronger, faster, quicker, and they get up and down the floor, and they're athletic, okay? And that's why they're at Division I, it's their size. But when you get the younger or the lower levels, these kids can play basketball, they can shoot the basketball, they're smart, they can read, and when you have kids that do that at Division I level, they usually go into the pros. Okay, but that's why we really like to play these teams, because we know they're going to give us something that we have to combat, and it's not always going to be easy. Now, when you look at the 2 wins, we don't look at it as that. I mean, yeah, we don't want to get beat, but we want to find out some things about our team. And I started some different lineups. I played kids more than what we'll probably do in main rotations in the regular season, but that's why you have exhibition games. And, I came away thinking we may not win a game this year if we can't stop somebody. Both games, in the last 5 minutes of the game, we did a very poor job of closing the games and also in the halves. And part of it was you go back and look and see who you had in and what you would do different. But everybody has to learn to play no matter what. And that was the frustrating thing for me, that we gave up 20 points in the last 5 minutes of the game. I mean, Olivet had about 60 points going into the last 5 minutes. We did a good job at halftime, limiting them to 37, and Marion was somewhere around 30. But Olivet shot the ball very well, and we just allowed that. And sometimes, it always happens, because when a team is supposed to win, Mike, sometimes you take it for granted. And that's really the benefit we have playing a Division I schedule, is teams take us lightly. They're not up for us. It's like playing Michigan State. When they're playing Michigan or Purdue or Indiana or whoever they're playing out of the Big Ten, they're going to gear themselves up more than they will for an IPFW. That's just human nature. And it's human nature that we'll gear ourselves up more for this weekend than we did for our exhibition games, because if you don't, you're going to get knocked into the next state. And those are the things that we have to look at. But I keep telling them, don't read what's on the front of their jerseys. Go out and play the way you're capable of playing. And with a young team, sometimes you have to learn by hard knocks. I hope that's not the case. But if we don't do any better, against the bigger teams than we did against the smaller teams. It's going to be a long season. But I'm convinced we improved our rebounding a great deal, ended up 44-31 against Olivet, the more athletic team, versus getting out-rebounded by 2 against Marion. So we saw some good things. Shot the ball extremely poorly against Olivet. 5 of 25 from 3, 46% for the game, 60-some from the line, and still scored 90 points. So it's not about our offense. It's totally about defending and rebounding and our toughness.
We got, I'm going to guess, maybe a minute and a half left. And I'm going to do something real quick. I know you don't like to do that because you like to go one game at a time. You start off tomorrow night. You're going to be in Colorado, Fort Collins, Colorado, playing in the BCA, the Black Coaches Association Invitational, I guess it's called.
Correct.
You're going to play 3 games in 4 days, starting off with Colorado State, a team that defeated you last year, 92-71. They bring 4 starters back. Then on Monday, you're going to take on Cleveland State, coached by Rolly Massimino, coached to a national championship, Villanova, back in '85. And they come off a 12-16 season. But as we mentioned off air, they get a front line, 4 guys, 6'9", 6'11", 6'11", and 7'2". Going to be a challenge that way, both on the boards and being able to penetrate and get the short shots. And then you finish the tournament on Tuesday, I believe, against Florida Atlantic, a team coached by former UNLV star Sidney Green, 19-12 last year, made it to the big dance. 3 games, 4 days, and that's not even talking. We don't have time to talk about Butler, the home opener, which I'll talk about briefly next week when I talk with Bruce on the women's program. But 3 games, 4 days. What do you hope to accomplish?
Well, we hope to give our young kids a lot of experience before the Butler game and the homecoming Friday, November 22nd at the Coliseum, which we're very excited about. But, we knew the tournament was going to be tough jumping in, but we've never backed away from really anything. I mean, we could have played 4 or 5 Division I games last year, and we chose to play 24 and pretty much of a full schedule. So we're not about to say, well, we could go out there and be 0-3, and that's not going to look very good. I'm not really worried about that at this point. My biggest concern is that we get better as a basketball team. We don't go to a postseason tournament now, so if we get a couple more games added onto the schedule, I think that's great. It's going to help our guys. Yeah, 4 games in 7 days to start the season. That's going to be a little rough, but our guys are going to have to just get in there and play, get in there and bang heads. And Colorado State beat us last year by 20 because they were physical in the paint. We did some good things against them with presses and traps, and we'll do the same thing again, but they beat us by physicalness in the paint. We've got to combat that. Cleveland State, now they got some trees, and we've got to put bodies on people and keep them off the boards. They got 55 rebounds against Reality Basketball in their only exhibition game, 21 on the offensive glass. We better put bodies on people, otherwise it's going to be a long night. And then Florida Atlantic, what can you say? They went to the tournament last year, but that was last year. Everything's different for a new year, and we're better. We're just younger, and we just got to get these guys through that. But that's why we're playing, Mike, to give some young kids some experience. Win, lose, or draw, it's going to be positive for us, and it's going to make an impact somewhere along the line during the year. Where, I don't know, but it's going to get some kids right out of the blocks, 3 games. We get back to Butler, we've got 3 games under our belt, plus we've started on the road, which sometimes is better to get the kinks and the flaws out. Hopefully we're not going to be too worn out against Butler, and that we can give a big evening, a big effort for that game at the newly remodeled Coliseum, which is phenomenal, by the way. But we're just looking forward to the challenge.
We wish you well, and we look forward to visiting with you as the season progresses.
Thank you so much, Mike. It's great to be back here, doing the show, knowing that the games are here now again, and I think it's going to be a great year in the first year of Division I basketball.
Good luck on the trip.
Thanks.
We've been visiting with Doug Knoll, head men's basketball coach here at IPFW. We thank Doug. We also thank the 3 players who appeared earlier as well: senior Brad Knoll, senior D'Angelo Woodall, and sophomore Terry Cowens. Quick note, also in the terms of basketball, tomorrow, 1 o'clock, Bruce Patterson and the women's team plays an exhibition game against Hillsdale College. If you can't make it here to the Gate Sports Center live and in person, tune in to Channel 56. We'll bring the action to you. Again, tip-off at 1 o'clock. Also, we want to wish Kelly Hartley and the women's volleyball team success as they are in Corpus Christi, Texas, finishing off their season with the National Independent Tournament, 4 matches in 2 days. So we'll tell you what happened there next week. And next week, again, we're going to keep the emphasis on basketball. We're going to bring Bruce Patterson in and talk about the women's basketball team. But that's next week. And until next week, this is Mike Maas saying have a great week and go Dons. On last week's edition of Mastodon Spotlight, we previewed the 2002-2003 men's IPFW basketball team. This week, it's the women's turn, and we have with us head coach Bruce Patterson. It's the basketball review for women, plus some good news from women's volleyball on Mastodon Spotlight, which is coming up next. Hi again, everybody. I'm Mike Maas. Welcome to another edition of Mastodon Spotlight. Well, as I said a moment ago, basketball is going to rule this week, as it did last week. Only this week we're going to talk women's basketball. But before we start talking with head coach Bruce Patterson, good news to report from Corpus Christi, Texas. Last weekend, Coach Kelly Hartley and the IPFW women's volleyball team captured the National Independent Tournament title, winning 4 matches in 2 days to finish off the season with a record of 16-18. We're going to talk with Coach Hartley, and you'll see that conversation in an upcoming show. But now let's turn our attention back to basketball. And again, we welcome back to the program second-year head coach here at IPFW, Bruce Patterson. Welcome back.
Thanks.
Last year, we won't talk long, we won't talk much. Culture shock, I think, for everybody, for any number of reasons. It was your first year here at the university after a very successful run at the University of St. Francis. But I don't think anyone was ready for 4-23.
Well, I don't know how to take that, Mike. We knew going into the year that we didn't have a lot of firepower, and we didn't know whether 4-23 was the right number or 0-27 was the right number. I mean, we hadn't gone through that schedule and didn't really know what kind of competition we'd be facing. But now we know, and I think we got a better idea what to expect.
I know we're going to put a lot of emphasis on the student athletes on the team. But before we do that, I'd like to ask you a kind of a personal question. A very successful run at St. Francis, 7 consecutive trips to the National NAIA tournament. To have that, and granted it's a different level of competition, how did you and your staff get through the season last year? Because it was tough for you.
Oh, it wore on all of us. It wore on the kids. I mean, it's hard to go out every game, and a lot of those games, quite frankly, Mike, just trying to figure out how not to get beat by 25 or 30 and try to keep the thing respectable. And that was a completely different approach to ball games. You know, we wore on it knowing that it was something we had to go through. I mean, we came here and took over a D2 program that was you know, it was a good D2 program, but it wasn't outstanding. It had a lot of student athletes who had left the program even after that, and so you say that, and now all of a sudden you're going in and playing the likes of Maryland. It's a whole different level of competition, different level of athlete that you're going after, and you know, I don't really know how to answer your question other than say you know, it's like anything else you got to go through. We knew what we had to do, and we spent an awful lot of time recruiting kids to hopefully make us better.
I guess the reason I asked the question is having a chance to watch your team last year, and at a smaller level, I coached junior high basketball for 11 years, and just knowing what it is, the frustration when you're used to success. And granted, you dealt well with the plate you were given, but I know it was eating on you, and from a personal standpoint, I hate to have someone suffer, and that's why I asked the question. But given that, obviously, recruiting was going to be a key for year number 2, and how did you and the staff, what was your game plan in wanting to attract student athletes here at IPFW for year number 2?
Well, we had to get a couple different things. I mean, we obviously had to get some ability to score. If you'll remember, there were a number of games last year, Mike, that we went out and played where we just shot the ball miserably, and it was simply because of 2 issues. One, we didn't have an inside presence that could force people to guard us inside, and therefore they knew we were one-dimensional at that point. And we had to solve that, and we think we did. And then the other thing, we wanted to get more scorers. We wanted to get more kids who could manufacture shots on their own, and that's always key because at the D1 level, you're guarded a lot better than you are at NAIA or at lower levels of NCAA. So we had to have kids that could manufacture shots and who could hit them when they manufactured them. So we went out after some scoring, and we think we got some of that.
Well, let's talk about the roster then for the 2002-2003 team. I know we broadcast the preseason match last Saturday, and we'll get into that later in the segment, but Dave Skelton and I talked about the fact that we had 3.5 people coming back from last year's team, and I guess I better explain that. 3 gals who played full year for you, and 1 gal, sophomore Vieira Bibbs, who played in the first semester but wasn't able to play in the second semester. So let's talk about those 3.5 gals or 4 gals first, because you have to have some leadership with all the freshmen you brought in.
Well, if you want me to just tick down through them, I'll be glad to do that. One of them, obviously, is Tiara Dudley, and Tiara is our lone senior on this ball team. Tiara is just one of the hardest working, finest young people you'll ever want to meet. She played center for us last year at 5'9" tall, which told you a little bit of the problem that we had. And we have said to T, you've got to change positions. We want you very much to have your opportunity to get on the court. The only way you're going to be able to do that is if you change positions, because you can't play a 5 at the D1 level. She has, as she does everything, I might add, said, okay, coach, and let's go do it. And she's worked very hard to develop her ability to shoot the outside shot, which I think you've seen her hit a couple threes actually in preseason already. She still has a ball handling issue that you don't learn that overnight, and so she's got to deal with that. But T's going to be there, and she's going to help us, if nothing else, by the fact that she's one of the great leaders I've ever been around. You've got Amy Geralds, who last year was all independent D1 player in the country, All-American at that level, at the independent level. And she's a great scorer, has outstanding ability to take the ball inside or outside. She will lead us in scoring, I have no doubt this year, probably lead us in minutes easily also. The other one is Courtney Nicely. Courtney played point for us last year, which she was way out of position there. I mean, Courtney is not a natural point guard. She really is a scorer. She's a slicer. If we can get her into 10 or 15 feet, she becomes an outstanding scorer for you. So we look for Courtney to do some nice things for us. And the last one you mentioned was V. V was, I'll say it on TV, I'll say it with V sitting here, she was in my short bad list almost all last year. She is a kid that came in here out of high school who really didn't know how to work very hard and didn't want to work very hard. That was physically or academically, and then both of them showed up. She got very little time on the basketball court even when she was eligible, and then she became ineligible. And I can talk about it that way because what this kid has done with her life academically and with her basketball is just unbelievable. And it's one of those things where you really celebrate somebody who just flat says, I'm going to do this different, and has gone out and done it. She has now become one of our best players, in that she is very active on the backboard. She can go up and get the board, she can score inside, and I'm happy to report is doing extremely well in the classroom. And I don't mean just average, she's doing extremely well, and for that we're very proud of her.
That's great to hear, because I know every coach here on campus is always concerned with the academic side as well as the athletic side of the student athletes. Well, that's the core that you got to work with. Now let's talk about the many, many people you brought into this program?
Oh man, I don't know that you got enough time, Mike. We have 8 freshmen, and that is a huge number of freshmen for a number of reasons. One, obviously you're teaching different systems and different ways to play basketball, and now you don't have older kids to teach them how to play because your freshmen outnumber your older kids 2 to 1. That's tough. The other side is that these kids have never been in a college basketball game, and that's hard for them to get used to because there's so much of a difference. There's such a dramatic difference between high school ball and college ball. It's just how you play defense, how athletic you have to be, how aggressive you have to be. All those things are things that we're in the process of trying to teach daily. That being said, we're excited about this group of freshmen. I mean, we worked hard at the recruiting side, and we're really excited what they can do. We knew we had to go get size, and we did that. Obviously, Varia Bibbs showing up and playing this year helped us a great deal inside because she is an outstanding inside player. But you add to that mix, Ashley Elmore, who is about 6'2" to 6'3", is honestly going to be a stud before it's over. I mean, Ashley is physical, she's strong, she's aggressive. She's the kind of kid you say, "Coach, I want you to do this different." She looks you in the eye and says, "Yes, Coach, I'll do that." She's got a great attitude. So she's a kid that we look for very soon to really mature. She's one that in the 2 preseason games struggled a little bit because she was having trouble adjusting to the inside play. I mean, she said to me the other day, "Coach, every time I touch the ball inside, there's 3 people standing around me." I said, "Welcome to college ball. That's the way it is. You better find your space." And so, she's got a learning curve, but I guarantee you, I absolutely will give a guarantee that this kid will go through the learning curve and do well at it because she's just got that kind of attitude. The other kid we got at the post position is a 6'5" kid by the name of Kelly Boyd. Kelly probably has a little longer learning curve, and sometimes I think being 6'5" is a disadvantage. In high school, she could stand around the bucket and tip everything that came her way. Nobody could touch her because all she had to do is hold up the ball up in the air and shoot it. But as soon as she learns how to become physical, and this is a great student, and I might add, by the way, an extremely good student, and also another one that says, "Yes, sir, I'll try to figure out how to do it." When she learns that, watch out, because the kid can shoot it very well, and she knows how to block shots. So we're excited about those 2 kids inside. As you step outside, then we've got a couple other outstanding young freshmen that are here. Great scorers. Lindy Carey, I think, comes to mind obviously right away. Lindy's out of Leo High School, a local kid who has a definite ability to put the ball through the little orange circle up there. I mean, she knows how to score. She knows how to find space for herself. She needs to become a better passer, and she knows that she needs to become a better defensive player. But that's all freshman learning things that have to go on. Geneva Murdoch may be the best athlete that I've ever been around. Geneva's a 5'11" kid who can jump. You saw some great rebounds out of her Saturday. She can shoot the ball inside or outside, even though she went 0 for 5 on Saturday. We know she can put it through the hole. It's almost V. Bibbs revisited. Not quite. I don't mean to say that Geneva doesn't really try, because she does try, but she's got a curve that she's got to get used to get used to the learning pace and intensity of college basketball. When she does that, she's got unbelievable potential out in front of her. I don't know whether that's going to happen in the first month, the first half year, the first year, but she will learn it because she's a good kid, and we'll learn that process. Do you want me to go through all of them? I'll be glad to.
We can go and talk about some of them now and some of them down the road as we go along through the season. But those are some of the key people that we're going to look for in the coming season. John, we're going to modify things a little bit. We're going to take a break right now. And when we come back, several days ago at a media conference at an establishment here in Fort Wayne, we had a chance to visit with 3 members of the women's basketball team. And those members were transfer Maggie Bruning, which Bruce will talk about in another segment, along with junior Amy Geralds and sophomore Courtney Nicely. And you'll see those interviews when Mastodon Spotlight returns in just a moment.
I'm Richard Dean Anderson. On Stargate SG-1, we discovered that the Stargate device could be used to explore an endless variety of adventures. Your device for endless adventure is a good education. No matter what your goals might be, you'll go a lot farther if you don't drop out. So keep your options open. Stay in school.
Step out of the car. Open up the trunk. Check inside. What's going on? Hands on the car. Bingo. Got it.
Today's teenagers, the way people talk, you'd think they can't do anything right. It's just not so. We get to know over 300,000 kids a year, smart kids who know what they want. They believe in themselves, and they believe in America. Some go straight to college. Others choose to learn leadership, discipline, courage, and commitment first with us. Today's military, making a stronger America, one good kid at a time.
A new century is coming, and with it, 1,000 questions. Will your family ever be in harm's way? Will a small town in Texas be hit with a hurricane? Will your daughter ever need a new kind of blood treatment? We have no crystal ball for the world that awaits. Just one promise. We'll be there.
Have a chance to speak now with the leading returning scorer from last year's UFW women's basketball team, junior Amy Geralds. And Amy, big difference this year's team from last year's team and difference of personnel.
Yes, that's true. This season should be a lot better than last year. Really looking forward to it, and it's going to be a lot better than last year.
Talk about how practice has gone so far.
Practice has been going pretty well. We've had a couple where we're not even there, but we're coming through, starting to look more as a team each and every day.
Last year you averaged over 15 points a game. The team seemed to score some, but we didn't stop the opposition. What's Coach has been working on in practice?
Stepping over and helping on the drive. That's our main concern right now is our defense. I'm not quite sure if we're a good defensive team yet or not. We're going to wait until we have a game tomorrow, a little scrimmage against Bethel, and then next Saturday with Hillsdale.
And that Saturday game we're going to be broadcasting on Channel 56, so hopefully some more people will get to see you.
Yep.
Realistically, from a personal standpoint, hopes, goals, and dreams, and then from a team standpoint, you got some good competition this year that we're playing.
Right. Goal-wise, just be a leader on the team. I'm one of the oldest ones out there, and I need to be a role model for everyone on the team. And as a team goal, for me anyways, we haven't really talked about it, but I feel like we can be at least 500 this year. That's a goal that I would really like to accomplish.
You open up against nationally ranked University of Minnesota. Any thoughts? I mean, obviously you're thinking about it, but realistically, what do you think you can do?
I think we can compete. I really do. With the squad that we have, it's great. We're all getting along very well right now, and I really think we can compete this year.
We wish you the best of luck. We'll talk to you as the season goes along.
Thank you.
That's junior Amy Geralds. Have a chance now to speak with returning, not a point guard, but playing the number 2 guard this year, sophomore Courtney Nicely. And Courtney, a quick look back at last year, your freshman year here with IPFW.
Well, it was a very interesting year. We got to play against some big schools. It was difficult because first year of Division I and everything. But for me, it was very exciting coming into a Division I school and getting to play right off the bat. It was a very exciting year.
Last year, I know at one point late in the year, Coach had you actually playing the point a little bit, but I know his plans were to have you play the number 2, the shooting guard position. You more comfortable with the number 2 as opposed to playing the point?
Well, I'm really comfortable with either one. I played both in high school, but I am a little more comfortable with the 2. Last year they had to have me as a 1 because our point guard got hurt. So I'm really comfortable playing both. It just depends on the situation, really.
A lot of new faces this year. What's practice been like so far?
Well, it's been very interesting. I think we're going to do a lot better this year. We've got a lot of girls coming in that are very talented, and I think it's going to be a great year. Practice has been going good.
You like the up-tempo style?
Yeah, definitely.
I'll ask you the same question I asked Amy a few moments ago. You're opening up against nationally ranked Minnesota on their court. I don't think anyone expects IPFW to do well, but realistically, from both a personal and a team standpoint, how do you feel that you can do against Minnesota?
Well, it's going to be difficult, but I think that if we play our best, we can definitely compete with them. We've got great talent this year, and we're working very hard in practice, so we'll just see.
Hopes, goals, and dreams, both from a personal standpoint and from a team standpoint?
Well, my goal is before I graduate is definitely to make the tournament at the end of the season. Personally, I just want to do as best I can every game. Maybe I don't really know.
Well, we get started. We get started real soon up against Minnesota.
Can't wait.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Sophomore Courtney Nicely. Have a chance now to speak with a transfer student from University of St. Francis, Northside graduate Maggie Bruning. And Maggie, first and foremost, welcome to IPFW.
Thank you.
What led you to come over to IPFW from St. Francis?
Well, Coach Patterson, Coach Paul, the whole staff left St. Francis last year, and I stayed for the first semester and didn't work out like I wanted to, so I decided to come join them here at IPFW.
As we just said a moment ago off air, you won't be eligible to play until late December, but you're able to practice with the team right now?
Right.
Your impressions of IPFW women's basketball?
Well, compared to last year, it's 110% better. Like the intensity, the talent level, the player, like the chemistry with the team, everything is so much better, and I think we'll be a lot better than last year.
What are the plans once you are eligible? Whereabouts are you going to play on the floor?
I'm going to be a point guard.
At the point?
Yeah.
There's a lot of new faces. You're just one of many this year. Do you think that could be a detriment or a help in trying to mesh the team together?
I think thus far it's been great. Everybody's getting along well. Everybody's playing well together. So I don't think it's going to be a problem at all.
Hopes, thoughts, goals, and dreams?
I'm expecting good things. We're going to be competitive every game, and we should win a lot more games than last year. And I think a lot of people are going to be surprised with how well we're going to do.
We're looking forward to seeing you on the court once you become eligible. But good luck.
Thanks.
That's Maggie Bruning.
I helped turn my child's public school into one with extended hours, 6 days a week year-round, filled with loads of academic, cultural, and recreational activities. One with medical and dental services right there. A school where students are excited about learning. There's just one problem. My child doesn't ever want to come home. Turn your school into a community school for excellence. Find out how. Call 1-877-LOVE-TO-LEARN.
Excuse me. Excuse me, are you Santa Claus? I heard you might be him. If you are him, here's my list.
Help the Marines make Christmas possible for less fortunate children. Donate a new toy to Toys for Tots.
Here's Santa Claus.
Properly inflating my tires burns less fuel and saves me money on gas. Yeah, I'm saving Mother Nature from pollution, but more importantly, she saved me $11. Ow!
Environmental defense. Get green.
By keeping my car regularly tuned, I save money on gas and repairs. That also means cleaner air. You know, feels good to help save the cash, planet.
Environmental defense. Get green. For more tips, go to getgreen.com.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. Our topic this week is women's basketball. We have back with us the head coach of IPFW women's basketball, Bruce Patterson. And Bruce, as we talked in this previous segment, and then we just heard from the gals, those three gals are three gals that you're going to count on a lot. And I know you can't wait for Maggie to become eligible to play. What does she have? Because we haven't seen her on the college level here, obviously at IPFW, but you're very high on her. What intangible does she bring with her that you think is going to help this team?
Well, before I get too far into that, I want to be careful here. I mean, we've got two kids playing the point guard position for us right now who are freshmen. A kid by the name of Jenny Green and is probably going to be on the court to start with, and Jessica Ramey backing her up. And we're not displeased at all with what they bring to the table. They are two outstanding athletes that are going to be good basketball players for us long term. But if there's a position on the basketball court in the college game, in my opinion, that has to do well for a team to do well, it is the point guard position, because they get out and put such pressure on the guards that if that guard can't handle that pressure and can't deliver the ball off to the side or off to one of the scorers, if you will, in a timely manner, then your offense never gets started. I mean, 30 seconds is not very long. What Maggie brings to us is an experience at that. She knows how, beside the fact she's stronger than a house, she knows how to handle the ball while pressure is there and knows how to get it delivered. And that is an intangible that right now we're struggling with. Not because the other kids won't be able to do it, it's just because right now they may not be quite ready for that. So for 7 games, we're going to go into the University of Minnesota, the 15th, 13th, 17th, whichever poll you look at, ranked team in the country, with a freshman picking up the ball to bring it down court. And my vision is that they're probably going to struggle. Maggie will give us instant credibility there because she's just a tough kid. I mean, she's strong. She shows me every day as she tries to beat on me. She's just strong. She's got a good, strong mind about what she wants to get accomplished, and she'll direct the traffic, and that we really like and we're looking forward to.
Well, you mentioned, we're going to get into part of the schedule in a few moments. We start, as this program is aired, you'll be in Minnesota, and tomorrow afternoon you take on the Gophers of the University of Minnesota. As you say, take your pick, ranked in the top 15, 16, 17, 13 in the country. But to prepare for that opening game, you've had a chance on 3 occasions to do battle. Briefly talk about the inter-squad scrimmage and then Bethel, and then we're going to look at some highlights from the preseason game we had last Saturday with Hillsdale.
Well, the inter-squad game was just exactly what we expected. I mean, I think before that game ever took place, like I said to you, I know this team can score. I'm not sure we can guard a post standing still, but we can score. The game score in a legitimate 40-minute game with referees was 110 to 86. I mean, the points were flying from everywhere. Some of that's because we are great shooters, and you give these kids an open look, they're going to knock it down. Some of that's because we can't defend anybody, and we don't get pressure on the ball, and we know that, and the players know that. They're just working hard to get there. All right. The second game was a scrimmage game against Bethel College, and Bethel's an NAIA team. It's a very good NAIA team. We do it because we've known Jody, the coach up there, for a long time from our days at St. Francis. We know he's a great coach who does a good job. You know, the biggest difference between their athletes and ours is size, and you know, I don't know, we won the game, you know, if the final score would have been put to it, all the things that scored and has, we'd probably won it by about 20 points. I think it was 18, 19, 20 points. But Bethel gave us some interesting looks. I mean, they had a quickness at a guard, which their guards are always outstanding. He's got older guards, and their guards came out and gave us some trouble. And, you know, eventually we wore them down and won. And we did some nice things, and we did some things we weren't very happy with. Primarily not very happy with our ability to defensively put pressure on people. And then the third game, which is the one I think you're going to show some tape
John,
of.
anytime you're ready. This is a game that was played last Saturday afternoon at the Heritage Sports Center. Hillsdale College from the GLIAC, Division II, coming off a 23-8 year, and they made it to the second round of NCAA Division II regionals. And you see here IPFW in the home white. And
That's one of the things.
Go ahead and talk.
That's one of the things you'll see Amy Gerald's given to us. I mean, she can be hard to handle. She's you know, she's a big kid who can shoot the ball from outside, so you got to respect that. So you know, that was Amy at her best. You'll see here a team in Hillsdale, a team that you know, very experienced team. They started 5 seniors, I believe, or 4 seniors.
Yeah, they had 7 players coming back from last year's team that won 23 games.
And so though they are smaller than us, they were a very experienced ball team, and that showed up late in the game. Early on, we did more than our share to be able to handle them. You know, we shot the ball well at the beginning. That's Courtney. That's what Courtney does well there. I mean, she's a slasher, and if you allow her to get inside, she has the ability to elevate and get off a good quality shot.
Correct me if I'm wrong, it looked like on the defensive side you came out with a 1-2-2. Designed more or less to turn the ball over?
Well, what we were really in was not a 1-2-2. We were in what we call blue-white, which is our, it's a man press with a lot of zone principle to it. But we're looking for traps, and you know, we rotate depending on the circumstance. That's Lindy Carey again. That's a scorer. I mean, she has the ability to manufacture shots. But yeah, our design is to put pressure on people for 40 minutes. This team is not built to be doing a great pressing job. The first thing we had to take care of is to find scorers and get kids who could score, and we did that. This team really lacks a little bit of foot speed to be able to press like we want long term. So how we'll do that this year will really depend on how they respond in total for the year. So we'll see. I don't know what we'll do there. That's still up in the air.
Well, you see there, we tried to get the ball inside and unsuccessful.
Yeah, right there's one of the breakdowns that you'll see defensively. That should never happen, what you just saw right there. We know that shouldn't happen, but we got lost in the transition, and you had have an older group of kids that found the soft spot, and they took advantage of it. But a lot of that is, you know, this starting unit had 2 freshmen or 3 freshmen on it.
Yeah, so
2 freshmen.
You had Ashley, Courtney was playing the point, you had Amy, you had Tiara, you had Ashley Elmore, who's number 15,
right.
and I'm missing somebody.
No, you
Lindy
had
Carey.
Lindy Carey. It was
Yeah.
a freshman. So you had 2 freshmen and a sophomore in the lineup at this point. And you know, if anybody should do a better job defensively, this group should, because this is as old as we get.
Again, this is action that took place last Saturday at the Hilliard Gate Sports Center.
Yeah, we will have to be patient with this group.
Violation there, and the Gate's a bucket. And again, here you get Courtney nicely bringing the ball up the floor.
We tried to take Courtney back to there to see if we could get some age, but Courtney's strength is now on the point guard, and we think we're hurting her and hurting us long term if we do that.
Nice move by the senior Tiara Dudley.
That's a piece that seniors and older upperclassmen give you. I mean, she knows how to get there, and she went back to her comfort level instead of being outside, and we encourage her to do that, but do it on a flash basis rather than go in and just post up.
Is the emphasis on the defense this year going to be primarily man-to-man? You say you got some zone principles, or are you going to be adaptable depending on the situation?
We are a man coach. I mean,
Okay.
we will coach man-to-man 95% of the time. You know, that's just the way we are. We want the pressure. Our problem is just getting the pressure on the player. We do not have our Achilles heel is we don't have the foot speed to necessarily be able to go out and get up in somebody's face and stay with them step for step.
There you saw Tiara, and you said, again, she's playing a new position. She's playing the 4 instead of the 5. She has busted her tail for 4 years here. But you can see there that, like you said earlier, it is a learning process. But there is some potential there.
Anytime you have T on the court, she's going to give you all you got. That's all I can ever ask out of a player, and I will do everything I can to help her get where she wants to go, because she's just a great kid. She's a great person. Kid. She isn't a kid anymore. She's a you know, but
Yeah.
she's just a terrific person who I happen to love dearly, and
She's had a great demeanor and disposition for the game, and she's going to do well this year. We'll see a little bit more here, I think, coming up at the end of her footage here.
she'll get a lot less playing time than she has in years past, but that's because of depth.
Okay. Well, those were some of the highlights, and again, we got out of the gate early. We hit 5 of our first 6 and 9 of our first 13 shots. They hit 3 of their first 4, and then they went cold for a little bit. 9 minutes into the game, we're up by, I think it was 27-18, or 25-18. And then they got hot, we got cold, and they came back, took the lead at the half by 6, and we just weren't able, we got close, but just couldn't get over the hump.
Well, I think their age worked for them. I mean, the older kids just did a better job. And frankly, Mike, if you'll look at the roster, we played all 12 kids.
Yes, you did.
We played all 12 kids significant minutes, so we didn't, we wanted to win the ball game, but we wanted to see all the players in a game environment against good competition. And I'm not saying that it would change it. I don't want to take a thing away from what Hillsdale did. They're a good ball team. But, you know, we wanted to see what we had and to use it. That's a risk that you take when you do that. We also found that we have some Achilles heel. We do have problem putting pressure on the ball. They shot, I think, 5 from 7 from the threes. Well, they're a good shooting team, but they aren't that good a shooting team. If you've got somebody on them, there were a number of times they drifted their 4 spot out to the 3-point line, and we just stood and watched them, and we weren't very happy with that, but that's the way it happened. What we did, we took the game as a learning experience, and hopefully we learned something from that. Hopefully the players learned something from that, and we're ready to go this weekend.
Well, we don't have too much time left, but I want to cover a couple of things quick. You're starting out tomorrow and Sunday up in Minnesota. You're going to play the Gophers tomorrow, and then either Savannah State or Radford Sunday. Then we come home next Wednesday night, the home opener here at the Gates Center against Ferris State University. Another member of the GLIAC, as was Hillsdale. And then you're going to get your suitcases out. Because after that, all the way through January the 7th, you've only got one home game, but you're going to go down to Texas A&M for a tournament there, 2-game tournament there. You're going to play at Toledo, who we played last year, at the University of Detroit Mercy, who we played last year. Bowling Green State comes here, and then Louisville, and then the 21st and 22nd of December is going to be a very big weekend for your team. You get a chance to play at the University of Notre Dame on the 21st, and the next day take on Western Michigan, who we split 2 games with last year. With so many games on the road to start, what are we looking forward to possibly seeing for the first few games of the year?
Well, you asking record-wise what we're hoping to get to?
No, realistically, probably a lot of people, with so many young people, there's probably going to be more L's than W's. But as a coach, number one, I know you're looking for improvement from everyone on the team. Anything in particular?
Well, we're looking for the kids to start to install our system, which we were never able to do last year. We didn't have the depth, we didn't have the personnel, we didn't have a lot of pieces. And I'm not saying we're completely there yet, but we've got kids who can now start to install that system. This is a walk before you run scenario. We've got to get the personnel in, and then we got to let them get a little older. As you already noted, you take 8 freshmen on the road. I know the kids before they walked on for the inter-squad game. Some of the kids had butterflies and were scared to death because it was the first time they'd slipped on the uniform. And you're going, whoa, what's it going to be like when we walk into Minnesota? And we understand we can expect somewhere between 5,000 and 7,000 people there against the number 15 ranked team in the country. How are they going to feel at that point? And we know that's going to happen. But we designed this schedule maybe from ignorance, but as much as from anything else, we designed it to try to develop a bunch of young people. And so we're looking for improvement. We're looking for kids who didn't do well defensively to start to finally step up, to start to recognize what they have to do. We're looking for kids who weren't quite as intense as they should have been to learn how to be intense. We're looking for our big centers to be able to say, I don't care if there's 3 or 4 people on me, I'm still going to find my space and find the player. We're looking, all those things we talked about, we're looking for those kids to improve in those areas. If we don't, we may be into January before we win a basketball game. I don't think that's going to happen. Frankly, we hope at the end of the first couple of weeks to maybe be as high as 3-2. Then we go into a stretch, it's going to be real hard to win some games. We go to Texas A&M and Louisville and those play in Notre Dame, that's going to be hard to win basketball games. Frankly, we think we put the Western Michigan game at risk because we play them on a Sunday and we're playing Notre Dame the day before. I mean, that probably is not the greatest schedule in the world, unfortunately, just the way it had to work out.
We wish you and the team well, and we look forward to visiting with you during the course of the season. I think things are going to look up a lot better this year than last, but I'm biased, what can I say? But we wish you well.
Thank you very much.
Bruce Patterson has been our guest, the head basketball coach for the women's team here at IPFW. We thank Bruce, we thank the ladies who visited with us earlier, and as always, we thank you, the viewer, for tuning in to see what's going on with IPFW athletics. We invite you to come back next week, Thanksgiving week. We're going to talk soccer and cross-country roundups. But until then, this is Mike Maas saying have a great week and go Dons.